Chapter 941. The star stabilizing godly metal treasure in the hand of the macaque that stood in the past suddenly froze. It turned around to look at the transmigrators from the future and thought to itself, "Why do I feel like I'm hearing Master's voice?" To an existence like the macaque, a single thought would only take up one plank's time. The Buddhist scriptures said that one's life and death was too long for them. However, even this short amount of time was a flaw for Rulai, who had Sakya's 5 seals. The Monkey King was caught off guard and got hit in the face. The golden Rulai's Dharma body used the fearless seal to slap the Monkey King in the timeline. Even though the Monkey King had a body of steel, he was still injured by the slap. Blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. The color of Wukong's blood was bright red, but also carried a hint of light gold, emitting a wisp of divine radiance. Such a mystical and extraordinary blood attracted the attention of the transmigrators. Some of the transmigrators who practiced evil Tao techniques were obviously a little excited, and they could no longer stay still. There was also a transmigrator who cried out in surprise. The great sage equaling heaven was actually defeated by one move. What's so strange about that? He's facing Buddha. A son of Buddha retorted unhappily. The Monkey King seemed to be stunned. He didn't fly into a rage. Instead, he seemed to be deep in thought. But after losing time, the only thing that exists is existence itself. I see. The Monkey King had a flash of inspiration. His quantum primordial spirit started to circulate, and he instantly understood what Chenong wanted to tell him. When nothing exists in the void, the only thing that exists is the void itself. When Master taught me quantum mechanics, he once said that this subject that studies the nature of matter and physics is called quantum. It's because science has discovered that energy can be divided into units that can't be divided anymore. It's in portions and can't be divided anymore. This is the answer. Energy is the attribute of movement, and movement is the nature of time. Therefore, the end of energy is the end of time. The existence of quantum reveals the simplest but most essential truth. When the quantum that exists because of time and space cannot be separated, it means that time and the four-dimensional space itself have an end. Therefore, combining the Planck quantum with the speed of light and other constants, we can derive the inseparable quantum of space and time, which is the shortest unit of distance and the shortest unit of time. The unit of length is 10 to the minus 35 meters, and the unit of time is 10 to the minus 43 seconds. This is the limit of time. When this Planck limit is broken, all the current laws of physics based on the current space-time reference frame will become invalid. This is because at that scale, there is no motion, no time, and even space has broken away from our current imagination. That is the essence of existence, which is existence itself. That is the lower dimension. There, the time dimension collapses into the third dimension. That is the forbidden zone of Tathagata's ability. Countless formulas and mathematical symbols flashed across the Monkey King's mind. His primordial spirit started to understand how to break through the Planck scale and reach the mysterious microscopic realm. Tathagata's golden body raised its head as if it had sensed something and said in a low voice, 60 seconds in a snap of a finger, 900 lives and deaths in a split second. Monkey King, if you want to surpass the boundary between life and death, you will only reap what you sow. Tathagata, no, you are not Tathagata. You are just his corpse that has turned into a spirit. I should call you Tathagata's Dharmakaya. Monkey King laughed. Sakya's 5 seals is indeed powerful. Sakyamuni is even more powerful. It's a pity that he went to destroy the heavens and fought against Brahma. You can force me to this state with the Sakya's 5 seals that he left behind, which represents the true nature of Tathagata. If old man Tathagata had come personally, I, old son, wouldn't have been able to handle him. It's a pity that I couldn't go all out and fight him. I could only fight you, an imposter. However, when you use his ability to see, you do have some of that old man Tathagata's elegance. It's my pleasure to meet you. Wukong hugged his claws and said with a smile, but in the end, I've seen through your magical power. I won this round. After saying that, he shouted, and his quantum primordial spirit escaped into the void, reaching the Planck scale. After this breakthrough, it will be a completely different world. I, old son, have never seen the scenery after this, but I think it must be an incomparably strange and mysterious world. Monkey King sighed. The imitation Golden Hall deity quantum intelligent organ modification that Master left behind for me is truly mysterious. There is even a discussion on how to break through the Planck scale. It's a pity that the physics that Master taught stopped when it came to quantum mechanics. Under quantum mechanics, after the collapse of space-time, a brand new physical system would appear. If not, I wouldn't have suffered such a loss. Monkey King sank into the void and leaped into that unimaginable world. In a trance, he arrived at the lowest level of matter and comprehended the essence of matter that surpassed time. The river of time flowed down. In the endless timelines, there were countless parallel universes that were like developed tributaries and water systems. However, the same water was flowing in the river. It was hard to imagine that the matter in this universe was being shared by all the timelines. The innumerable parallel universes were rooted on the same foundation of matter. The space-time universe of the fourth dimension was like a projection of the third dimension universe. From the core of that matter, all sorts of gorgeous and complicated worlds were projected outwards. Monkey King looked at a stone brick in the great thunderous temple. In the timelines of this universe, it was just a stone brick. However, in other timelines, the same matter could be a pebble under the majestic Kunlun Mountains, a nameless rock buried deep in the earth, or the lava in the earth's mantle. It could even become a part of a life at some point in time. In the timeline, at the same time, it was a stone brick under the body of the Buddha in the past, and it was a broken brick that was splattered and shattered during the battle between Wukong and the golden body of Tathagata. In the future, it was a remnant in the ruins. In the parallel timelines, its existence was even more varied. It was a part of life. It was the nameless cornerstone of Earth. The matter that formed it was divided into countless parts and existed in every corner of Earth. It could even turn into a meteorite and drift into the void. However, in this endless parallel timelines and the endless universes, all of them shared the same essence of matter. Therefore, here, Monkey King could see the existence of this essence of matter. It was like a projection of countless phantoms. So there are also things that time can't change. Monkey King sighed. In here, time was meaningless. Monkey King could clearly see the distorted space-time of Rulai from the essence of matter. At a higher level, all divine arts were just a game. Monkey King didn't stay in this realm for long. The golden body of Rulai was right about one thing. This wasn't a place that living beings should reach. He only traced back to the essence of the matter that formed him. He searched for the endless space-time, the countless past and future. Then, he returned to the front of Rulai. A hand gently pressed on the chest of the Tathagata golden body. The huge Tathagata golden body spat out a mouthful of golden blood. There seemed to be a soft cracking sound, and countless tiny cracks appeared on the Buddha's body that was as clear as glass. The Tathagata golden body smiled faintly and then disappeared. In the future space-time, all the transmigrators were dumbfounded. The great sage, heaven's equal, killed Buddha Tathagata. Is this the truth behind the destruction of the Zhengfa era? Evil creature, a son of Buddha, said with a trembling voice. He actually dared to kill Buddha, the leader of the demon race. A monstrous demon. The old keeper's hands trembled as he stroked his beard. He said agitatedly, "What a shocking inside story. So the Buddha actually died at the hands of the Monkey King. What is the inside story of the westward journey? Why is the Monkey King still the victorious fighting Buddha in the future? Is this a Buddhist internal conflict? Or is it the demon emperor's ambush? Buddha!" This shout came from the current Tempest Monastery. Goku turned around and saw Mahamayuri looking at the Tathagata golden body he had killed with a face full of shock. Behind him, Bull Demon King's eyes were as wide as copper bells, and his mouth unknowingly opened wide. The Demon Kings behind him whispered, "This Monkey King really has guts. He actually killed Buddha, Tathagata." an unparalleled demon. The 10,000-year-old Fox King sighed. Such a heroic figure. Why isn't he the Demon Emperor? Who will be the supreme Demon Emperor? Great Demon Emperor Heaven's equal. He truly lives up to his name. I, true immortal Ru E, will never bow down to anyone other than him. To be able to kill Rulai in the Tempest Monastery and even kill the gods and Buddhas on Mount Numinous. Along the way, how many bodhisattvas and arhats have we seen? He has greatly boosted the prestige of us demons. I originally thought that this great Demon Emperor Heaven's equal was conferred by the Jade Emperor and would weaken the reputation of us demons. But this great Demon Emperor Heaven's equal was so unyielding, daring to kill his way up Mount Numinous and kill Rulai. Who wouldn't bow down to him? It's not embarrassing to bow down to such a demon emperor. Yes, it's not embarrassing. The demon kings all agreed. Immediately, a demon king knelt and said, "Great Demon Emperor Heaven's equal, please ascend the throne in the Tempest Monastery and use Rulai's corpse to celebrate your ascension." The demons were in an uproar as they recommended the Monkey King. Great Demon Emperor Heaven's equal. Great Demon Emperor Heaven's equal. In the blink of an eye, a meeting to overthrow the grandson became a meeting to ascend the throne. At the side, the Bull Demon King watched this bizarre development and was dumbfounded. The Earth God, Night Cruising God, Day Cruising God, and Lu Ding and Lu Jia hid in the air and saw everything clearly. They screamed. The Monkey King killed Rulai Buddha and ascended the throne as the Demon Emperor. The Night Cruising God screamed, "Great Demon Emperor Heaven's equal is rebelling." The Day Cruising God was stunned. "Brother, this great Demon Emperor Heaven's equal hasn't raised the flag of rebellion yet, right?" The Night Cruising God said in horror. "He even killed Rulai Buddha." The 4 Vajras, 6 Bodhisattvas, and 18 Arhats died tragically. Even if such a cruel person doesn't rebel, what difference is there from rebelling? Quickly report to the Jade Emperor. Inform the 3 realms. Great Demon Emperor Heaven's equal. No, Great Demon Emperor Heaven's equal is rebelling. Don't call him by his emperor title anymore. It should be the Monkey King. The Monkey King killed Rulai Buddha and slaughtered Mount Numinous. He is coming to the heavenly courts soon. Chapter 942. Wukong turned around in shock, only to see his ancestral master screaming in horror with a serious expression. Son Wukong is rebelling again. Hurry up and report to the Jade Emperor. A Horned Ghost King was kicked out from the shadows. That Horned Ghost King was an Ean god in the celestial court and was as famous as the vigorous Ghost King. Now that he was kicked out, his face was filled with bitterness, and he was extremely unwilling. Chenong said to it, hurry up, hurry up. If you're one step slower, be careful of your life." Only then did the single-horned Ghost King put on a smile and sneaked into the great Thunderclap Monastery. He passed by the Demon Kings and squeezed in front of the Monkey King. With a face full of smiles, he bowed down and said, "I've long heard of Great Monarch's virtuous name, but I didn't get the chance to meet you. Today, when I passed by Mount Numinous, I finally saw Great Monarch sweeping Mount Numinous and killing Rulai. You're truly a hero among us demons, the destined Demon King. When I passed by Longevity Mountain, I saw the yellow clouds of Heaven Mountain land on the ground. Before they even touched the dust, they were lifted up by a 9-colored Lingji mushroom and transformed into an ochre yellow robe. On the Lingji mushroom were the words, 'Emperor and Heaven are equal.' I've learned some divination techniques and know that this is a prophecy, but I've never understood its meaning. Now that I've seen the Great Emperor, I know that this is an auspicious sign from the heavens, implying that the Great Emperor is equal to the heavens." As he spoke, he took out an ochre yellow robe and a 9-color Ganoderma and offered them to the Monkey King. Hearing this, Goku's breathing stagnated, and he said angrily, "What are you doing?" The one-horned Ghost King hurriedly said, "The heavens have bestowed an auspicious sign upon me, allowing me to honor the Great Demon Emperor Heaven's equal as the Emperor of Heaven. The Great Emperor has swept away the evil in Spirited Mountain. That old man Rulai has gone against the rules and caused chaos in the three realms. The Jade Emperor has a poor eye for talent and is muddle-headed and tyrannical. He's been bewitched by that old man Rulai. Now that the great Emperor has swept away Spirited Mountain, it is difficult to clear the side of the Emperor. Isn't that in line with the will of the heavens and the people? We should remonstrate with the Jade Emperor and ask him to abdicate to a virtuous person. As soon as the one-horned Ghost King said that, the surrounding demon kings immediately had strange looks in their eyes. Looking at the one-horned Ghost King, he thought to himself, what a scoundrel. He's actually so shameless. If he succeeds, it will be a great merit for the Dragon Court. How can I let him monopolize it? You're too shameless. You actually beat me to it. Immediately, a 10,000-year-old Fox King stood up and cowed out. Heaven's equal Demon King, please ascend to the throne as Emperor of Heaven in the great Thunderclap Monastery of Mount Numinous. This old man is a country bumpkin. Because I saw the phoenix cry Spirit Mountain, I accidentally barged into the great Thunderclap Monastery and saw the great Emperor killing old Devil Rulai with his hands. His chi turned into 9 colors like a canopy. It was the aura of the Emperor of Heaven. Please take your seat. The Monkey King really wanted to curse in his heart, but he couldn't say it out loud in front of everyone. He could only curse in his heart. Do you think I didn't see the look of unwillingness on your face when you were kicked out by my Grandmaster? You're trying so hard to push me up. Are you trying to kill me? Were you plotting to frame me like this? Is it my Grandmaster's scheme? Or is the Jade Emperor trying to force me to rebel? Countless thoughts flashed through the Monkey King's mind. With his intellect, even if Rulai was plotting against him, he could still vaguely sense a trace of Wu Tian's secret plot. Only Chen Ang's actions were like an antelope hanging its horns. He did as he pleased and left no traces behind. The Monkey King couldn't figure out what was going on. The Monkey King's silence was misunderstood by the other Demon Kings. The Bull Demon King's heart was especially complicated. After an intense mental struggle, he sighed and said to himself, "Forget it! Forget it! Sun Wukong even killed Buddha, Tathagata. His demonic prowess is truly monstrous. How can I compare to him? I can't compete with him for the position of the Demon King. I originally rebelled against him because he was bestowed the title of nobility by the Jade Emperor, which weakened the boldness of us demons. Now that I look at it, he is a scheming and ambitious person. Submitting to the Jade Emperor is also an expedient plan. After hiding in the heavenly court, he saw the weakness of Spirited Mountain. He killed the Buddhas and destroyed the temples. After that, he destroyed Spirited Mountain and rebelled against the heavens. I can see how scheming he is. He is indeed an ambitious person of his generation. They're originally monkeys, so their brains are good. How can I, a simple and honest white bull, fight against them? I, old bull, can't compare to such an ambitious person who can think of 100 schemes in a single thought. It's better for me to give in and admit defeat. Otherwise, if he sees that I'm not convinced in the future, he will plot against me and kill me." Immediately, he stuttered and said, "The great Emperor has the looks of a celestial being. He secretly rebelled against the heavens and took down Spirited Mountain. He is really a great hero among us demons. Now that the Demon King has ascended to the throne, who dares to be unconvinced? I'm willing to be a lackey under the great Emperor." Seeing that his big brother had given in, Demon King Jiao also said, "I'm willing to be the vanguard and fight our way into the southern heavenly gate for the great Emperor." The transmigrators who were still watching from the future said in horror, "So the Monkey King is actually such a scheming and fiendish demon. He killed his sworn brother's only son and repeatedly became an accomplice of the heavenly court's Spirited Mountain on the road to the west. He killed his own kind. He actually wanted to gain the trust of the heavenly court and wait for the opportunity to unify the three realms. He has the ambition to conquer the world." The Arhut was dumbfounded. This Demon King is indeed ruthless and cold-blooded. He is cruel and heartless. I'm afraid that all the demons are just pawns in his eyes. The number one schemer of the three realms. Someone said in horror, "Although his scheme failed in the future, The future generations actually knew nothing about it. He even snuck into the ranks of the Taoists and Buddhists. When I go back, I must write a book to expose the true colors of the Monkey King. It was unknown when Chenong had returned to the crowd. He waved the goose feather fan that came out of nowhere and pointed it out. Didn't you guys notice that something was wrong? What? The old pedant looked around nervously, confused. There doesn't seem to be anything strange. Nothing strange is the biggest abnormality. Let me ask you guys, Rulai is dead, and Sakya's 5 seals have been broken. Why haven't we returned to the future? Really? Someone said in shock. Someone comforted himself. Don't we need some buffer time? It was chaos. Only Chenong was still waving his fan. When the crowd realized that no matter how much time had passed, even if the immortals and Buddhas from the even more ancient Rulai's Dharma assembly had disappeared, they were still in the past. After saying that buffer time was no longer enough, the transmigrators panicked. It was then that Chenong said, "We may have already changed history." It was I who pointed out the weakness of Sakya's 5 seals. That's why the Monkey King was able to break the space-time turbulence. Without us, it's hard to say what would have happened. The old pedant's voice trembled. You're saying that in the original history, Rulai and the Monkey King perished together. That's why history didn't record the other side of the Monkey King. Because of our arrival, history has changed. I'm not sure of the real reason. Chenong looked up. But I do know that we can't return to the future. The transmigrators were still digesting this shocking news. In the Hall of Great Strength, there were already images of the arrival of the Phoenix, the birth of the Qilin, the Monkey King slaying the great demon Rulai, and the sons of the red, white, yellow, black, and green emperors. Mahamayuri was forced by a group of monster kings to advise. Wise king, now that Spirited Mountain is in danger, what's the use of staying here? You're originally a demon, and it's not good for you to stay here. Why don't you pledge allegiance to the great emperor equal to heaven? Wouldn't that be great? Mahamayuri reluctantly gave in. He was escorted to the top of the hall by the crowd, pretending to be a phoenix. He was, after all, the son of a phoenix. His feathers were gorgeous, and he had some semblance of a phoenix. However, the tortoise demon pretended to be a spirit tortoise and presented a painting. The horse demon pretended to be a dragon horse holding a book, and the 10,000-year fox king cried out, "The rise of the demon king shall be the emperor of heaven." The carp demon stuffed the yellow silk book into his stomach and spat it out at the feet of the Monkey King. A few ancient monster kings were concocting the heavenly book. There was also a giraffe demon from the Aparagodania state, who claimed to be a Qilin and ran to the human realm to make prophecies. A demon from the Dong Shang divine continent, who had turned into a demon, spread its pollination all over the world, and wanted the human realm to grow Jiaha. A one-eyed stone demon vowed, "The demon king and I are of the same family. Of course I'll lend a hand." He then ran to the Yellow River and used his one-eyed supernatural power to provoke the Yellow River. Chapter 943. In the numinous sky hall, the Jade Emperor sat on the throne, and a spirit officer, Yu-E, rushed into the hall and reported to the Jade Emperor with a trembling voice, "Long live your majesty. There's a knight cruising God outside the Hall of Enlightenment, waiting for the celestial venerable's decree." The Jade Emperor's eyebrows drooped slightly, and he opened his eyes. "Oh, what's the matter?" Yu-E knelt down and was terrified. She couldn't help but say, with a trembling voice, reporting to the celestial venerable, that demon Monkey King from the lower domain is rebelling again. Now, the demons in the human world have gathered at Mount Numinous and are causing a ruckus in the Great Thunderclap Monastery. They call themselves Jing Nan and want to bring their troops to the numinous sky hall to remonstrate with His Majesty, purge the Emperor's side, and kill Rulai. After hearing Spirit Officer Yu Yi's report, many of the important ministers and immortals had strange expressions on their faces. Some of them couldn't hide it, and the corners of their lips even curled up slightly. Dhritarashtra thought to himself, "This son Wukong has indeed fallen into the trap. I advised him not to go over, but this is great. Now that he's been schemed against, I don't know how many hardships he'll have to go through in order to clear his name." He'll even have to be reprimanded by God and be brought into the system to wear down his pride. Let's make him like Great Emperor Ziwei and Lord Taishan official. He'll be worn down by the Celestial Venerable using the system of the Celestial Court so that he'll be easy to use. So on this Mount Numinous, a group of celestial deities sent themselves to their deaths. Other than using this opportunity to escape from the heavenless death calamity, they also wanted to use this opportunity to scheme against the Monkey King. Otherwise, how would the night cruising god and day cruising god, Lu Ding Liujia, and Lu Ding Liujia enter so coincidentally? As the saying goes, it's better to do something than to do something. The Jade Emperor could clearly see that the Monkey King didn't want to get involved. Therefore, he used this opportunity to set up this plan. Firstly, it was a bureaucratic method to wear down and suppress the Monkey King. Secondly, it was also to find an opponent for Heavenless. The Jade Emperor directly gave the order. A powerful governor like the Monkey King naturally didn't care. But if the Monkey King was accused of killing Rulai and slaughtering Mount Numinous, then the Monkey King would have to work for the Mount Numinous in order to clear his name. He would have no choice. This was the Celestial Court scheme of killing with a borrowed knife. It was also the Jade Emperor. However, Chenong had already seen through the meridian and had his own ways to deal with it. However, Chenong suddenly attacked, leaving Wukong with nowhere to attack. His head was in a mess. Wasn't the same for the heavenly courts? However, they didn't know yet. Therefore, in the Lingxiao Hall, all the important officials were calm. They could even greet each other and exchange glances. The Jade Emperor summoned the civil and military officials and asked, "It's not enough for this demon monkey to get the title of Heaven's Equal. Why did he cause trouble? He killed Elder Buddha of the Western Paradise. I personally conferred him the title of the 5 Elders of the 5 regions. This Mount Numinous has a high status. If he was really killed by the demon Monkey King of the lower realm, I will definitely punish him severely and send generals to capture him." Below, Lord Taibai Xing reporting to the great heavenly venerable, Elder Buddha of the Western Paradise has experienced thousands of tribulations and is an expert. The Monkey King has only been born for a few decades. How could he have done such a big thing? There must be a reason. Your Majesty, please send him to His Highness to defend himself. Another Lord Wuda reported, "That's not right. Long live. That demon monkey caused trouble some time ago. He beat up the Lord of Mount Tai Prefect, caused havoc in the Netherworld Divine Court, and messed up the Heavenly River. He secretly instigated the demons to gather and attack the Southern Heavenly Gate. This is a crime of great treason. He should be put on the immortal slaying platform, stripped of his immortal body, and thrown into the 18 levels of hell, never to be reincarnated. He received the great heavenly venerable's pity and grace. Not only was he absolved of his crimes, but he was also conferred the title of Heaven's Equal. Now that he's not satisfied, he rebelled again and even caused havoc in the Mount Numinous. He injured the Buddha's body and spat out the Buddha's blood. This is a crime of 5 treason. Thinking about that stone monkey, he was born and raised by heaven and earth. Your Majesty is like the incarnation of heaven and earth. He should respect your Majesty as his father." He was conferred the title of the Great Heavenly Venerable and became a subject of the Heavenly Court. That Elder Buddha of the Western Paradise taught widely and became the teacher of all living beings. Now that the Monkey King has rebelled against heaven and earth, betrayed the Emperor, killed his master, and had no relatives, it's clear that he's an unpardonable villain. We should send heavenly troops to capture him and put him on the immortal slaying platform to correct the heavenly law. Wu Dexing Lord spoke righteously and acted as the bad guy, wanting to question the Monkey King. Everyone below didn't know the inside story, but the heavenly court had a system. Even if they knew, as long as the words of justice were justified, the Monkey King would have to at least peel off a layer of skin to get through this. When he went up to the heavenly court, he would naturally be under the Jade Emperor's control. This group of important ministers of the heavenly court had good ideas, but unfortunately, what happened to the Monkey King was no longer in line. Chen glanced at the 10 million demon soldiers in the golden ship of creation. The Lion Camel King, the Macaque King, the Uluo King, and the other demon kings led a total of 36 divisions of the Heavenly Dipper demon army and 72 caves of the Earth Fiend demon army. There were a total of 30 million of them. All of them were fully equipped and had strict drills. They were the elite demons that Chen had meticulously trained. Although they hadn't been around for long and couldn't be compared to the armies of the Republic and Xianqin, which were in the flames of war that extended across the multiverse, they were enough to fight against 10 times the heavenly soldiers. Monkey King, the foundation of your rebellion, I have already prepared it for you. Just kill your way up to the 9 heavens and trample through the clouds. Chen waved his right hand, and the battle cries of the demon army shook the heavens. They rode on the 108 huge bronze divine ships that looked like small golden ships of creation and flew towards the spirited mountain. The bronze divine ships extended 6 huge wings that were powered by the true fire of the sun. The huge ships were orderly and neat, displaying the name of the great emperors equal to heaven. Along the way, they were extremely ostentatious, causing the entire 3 realms to know about it. The mountain god and the earth god were trembling in fear. The demons around were surprised and delighted. Star-Lord Yao in the sky was terrified, and Lu Ding and Liujia were dumbfounded and helpless. These demon kings are really creative, and they're also very hardworking. When Chen saw the little demons and demons around, and saw the military formation of the great emperor's equal demon army, he was invigorated. He put in even more effort to act mysteriously, flaunting prophecies and nursery rhymes. On the 4 main continents, the spirited mountains and rivers were strange. A farmer went out to plow the fields, and after taking 2 steps, an old cow mooed, the venerable of the 3 realms, the emperor of heavens equal to heaven. The farmer was shocked, and after taking 2 more steps, a magpie chirped, the emperor of heaven has lost his virtue, and there will be disasters. The spirited mountain subdues the demons, the demon emperors equal to heaven. The farmer left the boat and ran away in a sorry state. An old turtle came out from the river, and on its back, words were carved, "The east of the heavens and earth is the divine land. The stone saint is equal to heaven." Looking towards the east, a huge rooster spirit with 5 colored feathers, which were embroidered with the patterns of the 5 virtues, disguised as a phoenix, flew towards the hall of great strength on the spirited mountain. In the mountains and rivers of the world, countless demons gave their all to promote the Monkey King. As long as there were traces of living beings, there would be all sorts of auspicious signs. In a short period of time, there were all sorts of lingji and celestial herbs everywhere. Just by going out to buy vegetables, one would be able to pick up a dozen lingji of various colors. These were all stolen by the demons in the mountains and placed around the city. When one went out, they would be able to see all sorts of colorful clouds, red, yellow, green. Within a day, countless dragons, snakes, pythons, and mixed dragons would cross the river, and they would even leave behind all sorts of prophecies. The children in the mortal world would hear all sorts of lousy nursery rhymes written by the demons every 2 steps they took, and it was extremely annoying. Chen was so angry that he wanted to laugh. It's not like he's trying to usurp the throne. What's the use of all these? Does the Emperor of Heaven have to listen to the opinions of the mortals and demons? Forget it. At least we can create some momentum and show that the demons in the world are supporting the Monkey King, and they can also be considered as showing their loyalty. When it comes to changing the Emperor of Heaven, those who have the right to speak are at least celestial beings with a certain level. Isn't it a joke to have these things in front of them? Chapter 944. Chen went directly to the Ziwei enclosure above the 9 heavens to see Ziwei the Great. In the North Pole Palace, he asked the left minister and the right minister to report to Ziwei the Great. Not long after, 3 celestial lords came out to greet him and said, "The celestial lord has been waiting in the palace for a long time. He ordered us to invite you in for a while." Chen went in happily and saw Ziwei the Great standing on the jade pavilion. observing the galaxy. He greeted Chenong and said, "I have long heard of the great name of the immeasurable celestial Lord. Now that I see you, I understand. Now that the disciple of the celestial Lord, the great emperor equal to heaven, has caused a great commotion. Why did you come to the North Star Palace instead of dealing with it?" Ziwei Emperor asked with a smile as he invited Chenong to sit down. Chenong said calmly, "That sinful disciple of mine doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. He's lawless and committed such an unforgivable crime, causing the heaven court to be in chaos and the three realms to be shocked. I feel deeply guilty, so I asked the Imperial Emperor to show me a bad omen so that he can be alert and not commit such a treacherous crime again." "Oh." Ziwei Emperor put down his wine cup and said in surprise, "Celestial Lord, you have a loyal heart. What do you want me to do?" Chenong smiled and said, "That disciple is arrogant and arrogant. He calls himself a supreme and offended the Emperor of Heaven in an attempt to rebel. There are demons in the lower worlds who are rebelling against the celestial court. The great Emperor should order Beichen to move the palace to warn all living beings and correct the celestial court. Beichen is the master of the constellations in the heavens. He is surrounded by the stars, unmoving and unchanging. He has already shown that the celestial arch will rule the three realms forever, and the way of the emperor will never change. Now, he wants Beichen to move his palace. I'm afraid that the three realms will be uneasy and the Jade Emperor will punish him." Great Emperor Ziwei said with a frown. Chenong advised, "The Jade Emperor, the great heavenly venerate, rules the three realms and is a saint. Now that my disciple is rebelling, he has already controlled the demons and is about to cause chaos. But the celestial court is not aware of it and let it do as it pleases. I fear that the three realms will be disturbed and the Jade Emperor will punish it," Ziwei the Great said with a frown. The emperor condescended to the six royals and added the emperor's star. It was necessary to advise the Emperor of Heaven. Therefore, the heavenly courts are raising a tiger and causing trouble. The emperor should follow the heavens' orders and warn the Emperor of Heaven. It caused the North Star to shift its position and sensed the celestial being to indicate that there is a thief who wishes to usurp the throne of the Emperor of Heaven. This is the Emperor's mandate of heaven. Great Emperor Ziwei pondered for a long time before he nodded and said, "Celestial Venerable is right. I should warn the three realms that a great calamity is coming. Once the spirited mountain was closed, there would be no heaven rampaging, calamity would come, and all the Buddhas would perish. Numinous sky palace of the golden arches, Chi Tian wanted to usurp it. Demons supported it, wearing a yellow robe, supporting it against the heavens. The immortals and Buddhas are in turmoil. The Jade Emperor's position is in danger. He ordered the North Star Palace to move, indicating that a great calamity is coming. He ordered the heavenly court to work together to fight against the demons and quell this great calamity." When Chenong saw that the purpose of his visit was complete, he bade farewell to Imperial Emperor Ziwei and left. After Chenong left, Imperial Emperor Ziwei held his wine cup and stared at the void in front of him, lost in thought. He did not speak for a long time. When Imperial Emperor Gaochen heard about this, he hurried over. When he saw Ziwei, he quickly advised, "Why is the emperor so reckless? That immeasurable heavenly venerable has evil intentions. Do you really think that he is thinking for the heavenly courts? This person has always been fanning the flames and causing disasters. Today, he came to advise you with evil intentions. He is causing the great heavenly venerable to be wary of you. Would the great heavenly venerable let me go if I watch from the sidelines?" Imperial Emperor Ziwei said calmly. Imperial Emperor Gaochen was speechless. Imperial Emperor Ziwei said calmly, "As long as I am still the master of the stars, the Jade Emperor will be on his guard and suppress me. Since that is the case, what difference does it make if I don't intervene? The immeasurable heavenly venerable gave me a reasonable reason. Why don't I give him some trouble? I am a destiny star system. Now that I am in dire straits, how can the great heavenly venerable suppress me?" When Imperial Emperor Gaochen heard this, he sighed and said, The great heavenly venerable is indeed intolerant of others. He places great importance on his position of power. However, Emperor, looking at this immeasurable heavenly venerable's actions, he is very scheming. I am afraid that there will be unforeseen dangers. Even the Jade Emperor did not shed all pretenses of cordiality with him when he was in this state. It can be seen how deep the waters are. Although we brothers have lost our positions of power, we have also obtained peace. Why should we get involved in his muddy waters? Imperial brother, do you know that the immeasurable heavenly venerable will not only look for me, but he will also look for the Mount Tai official lord? Imperial Emperor Ziwei sneered. Not only will I agree to him, even if the Mount Tai official lord has a deep grudge against the Monkey King, he will temporarily agree to him, because we are the lords of heaven and earth, and we have the ambition to rule the three realms. If the Monkey King rebelled, if the waters are not deep enough, I might not be willing to get involved. It is good for me to continue being a peaceful lord. Only when the waters are deep enough to drown the Jade Emperor, will we be tempted. Isn't great heavenly venerate Jade Emperor's forte in borrowing force to fight force? He only needs to deal with all kinds of troubles, and there will be immortals who have the ambition to spread the Tao to help him deal with the troubles. First, there was me and the Mount Tai official lord. Now there is Tathagata and the Tai heavenly venerable. Now, even Tathagata has entered the Tao of Nirvana to fight against the Buddhist demons. Finally, we can see the great heavenly venerable in action. Do you know what a good opportunity this is? The Monkey King's magic power is strong, and he can kill the golden body of Tathagata. The immeasurable heavenly venerable is unfathomable. If I don't seize this opportunity, am I going to be a noble imperial emperor for the rest of my life? If that is really the case, the Jade Emperor will lose his position. Imperial Emperor Ji Wei was a little lost in thought. He said sadly, "The Monkey King is not a threat. After all, the Mount Tai official lord and I are the rightful successors of the heavenly mandate. How can a mere demon emperor sway us? At most, we can really make him a demon emperor with real power. The great heavenly venerable can suppress us, making me the lord of the stars, a lonely star. The Mount Tai official lord is only accompanied by the four mountains. Can't I learn from him?" That night, Emperor Ji Wei moved his palace. The North Star changed positions. Mount Tai tilted to the east, and the Jade Emperor peak collapsed. The three realms shook. Chun Ong stood at the top of Mount Tai, quietly waiting for the sun to rise. In his right eye, countless gaseous substances were undergoing complex changes, forming a degenerate sphere that was thousands of times the size of a star. Inside the sphere, countless complex systems were operating, and his right eye was undergoing shocking changes. The Republic's second set of eye exercises. The first style, rubbing the Tianing acupoint, nuclear fusion. Chenong pressed on the Tianing acupoint, and the quantized acupoint organ began to ignite a large amount of degenerate substances in his right eye. The quantum organ that fused the Tianing acupoint emitted an extremely high-energy gamma ray that shot into Chun Ang's eyeball and into his pupil. As the high-energy degenerate substances inside, it began to ignite a nuclear fusion reaction. Chun Ang's right eye gradually glowed with a dark red light that resembled magma. As the light swam, it became brighter and brighter until it surpassed sunlight and lasers, reaching 100 billion times the brightness of sunlight. It shot straight into the sky from Chun Ang's right eye, shining on the sun when the sun rose on Mount Tai. In the three realms, everyone could see an indescribable light shooting straight from Mount Tai to the sun, the second style, pressing on the Jingming acupoint, swallowing the sun as the eye. The divine light that shot into the sun seemed to have triggered the fission reaction of the sun and Shaoyang Yuan Qi on the sun. The sun suddenly shone brightly. An intense Yuan Qi fission and fusion reactions began. Countless energy was being converted into gamma rays, the divine rays of solar annihilation, which radiated back to Chun Ang's right eye. At this time, the quantum organ that swallowed the sun's eyes opened up in front of Chun Ang, and a huge void reflection reactor with a diameter of about 2,000 miles. It swallowed the divine rays of solar annihilation and poured them into Chun Ang's right eye, providing energy and substance for the developing eyeball. The people of the three realms saw that the light of the sun was gradually sucked out by a black hole at the position of Mount Tai. The sun in the sky gradually dimmed, and the sunlight gradually turned cold. In the three realms, there were cultivators and demons who were scared out of their wits by the North Star's shift. Now, they saw such a horrifying scene, and they panicked. The various mountain gods and earth gods were panicking, and the itinerant immortals of the 3 islands and 10 continents were very uneasy. The various immortals of the heavenly court also went to greet the Jade Emperor. Third style, squeeze the shunting acupoint, quantum intelligence. The quantum organ in Chun Ang's shunting acupoint began to modify the constantly quantized field around the developing star in his right eye. Chun Ang was already very familiar with the intelligence of the planet's quantum field, and he easily molded a star soul for the star in his right eye. Fourth style, press on the temples, raise the sun god. Chun Ang pressed on both sides of his temples, and the quantum organ in his acupoint opened up into a huge gravitational well and began to emit his right eye. With the adjustment of the quantum organ's temples, the star that Chun Ang's right eye had developed began to enter the orbit of the 3 realms and 9 skies. The original solar star was already very dim, and just when everyone was in a state of panic, a new bright spot of light suddenly appeared beside the original solar star. The spot of light slowly expanded and became clearer, and gradually replaced the old solar star, becoming a new solar star. The original solar star had already become red and dim, so although the 3 realms became a little hotter, because the fire of the old solar star was almost extinguished, it did not have much of an effect. In the sky, there were 2 suns. The old one was weak, and the new one was flourishing. Chapter 945. 2 suns in the same sky. The new flourishes while the old declines. The purple shakes, the North Star shifts. Mount Tai tilts, the Jade Emperor collapses. Great heavenly venerate, Jade Emperor, chanted coldly to the officials. His eyes finally opened, and he glared at them. How long are you going to wait? Are you going to wait for the 3 realms to panic, or for me to give up my throne? The immortals are a loss. What are you all doing? There are a total of 360 battle constellation lords in the current dynasty. Today I have no choice but to dismiss 17 of them. Among the 5 elders of the 5 directions, I can only see one of them today. Look at those 5 immortal elders. Which one of them isn't a pillar of the heavenly court? Which one of them isn't an expert? Which one of them isn't my good teacher and friend? During the battle of Mount Numinous, Elder Tathagata was killed. I accepted the mandate of heaven and cultivated 1,750 tribulations to receive the boundless great Tao and rule the 3 realms. But it ended up like this. I'm heartbroken. I've sinned against the 3 realms. I've let down my conscience and all living beings. I wish I could face the tribulations all over again and cultivate another 1,000 or 2,000 tribulations. And all of you, although you're all powerful immortals and have cultivated many tribulations to be able to enjoy immortal blessings here in the cloudy palace of the Golden Arches, do you all have a clear conscience? Are you all so carefree? I know that some of you have already become wooden and clay statues on the altar and have been worshipped by all living beings for too long. All of you have become stupid. You fear the enemy like a demon. That monkey king is a demon monkey from the lower realm. His cultivation isn't even a fraction of yours. Yet he managed to defeat all of you at the foot of Mount Zhongnan, doing nothing without doing anything. Ever since I ascended the throne, the 3 realms have been peaceful and the 4 seas have been at peace. There have been more than 1,000 tribulations. The heavenly court has gone through many tribulations. The Xingtian rebelled, Wu Zhiqi caused trouble, and Qiu's blood turned into the Qiu flag, hanging in the 9 heavens. He invaded the palace of Mars and caused 3 years of drought. Now he still patrols the 9 heavens and offends the heavens. Martial virtue, Star Lord, you once resisted him. Why are you so afraid of a human demon monkey now? Your Majesty, martial virtue, Star-Lord couldn't help but step out and say, Your Majesty, please grant me a troop. I will subdue this demon. If I cannot subdue it, I will bring my head to His Majesty. The Jade Emperor heaved a sigh of relief and said softly, Lord Wuda, you are very kind. I appreciate it. However, the Monkey King is indeed the Emperor equal to heaven. He was able to capture the Lord of Mount Tai and defeat the Heavenly River Navy. Even the heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals of the Ministry of War, the Ministry of Thunder, and the Ministry of War couldn't take him down. You are alone and definitely not his match. You don't have to mention it anymore. Lord Martial Virtue retreated angrily. Lord Tai Bai Jinxing took another step forward and said, Grand Empyrean, this Monkey King is just a minor disease. Without the support of his master, there would be no need for the heavenly soldiers to deal with him. He would feel bored and disperse. The current commotion is mostly the work of the immeasurable heavenly Lord. The demons in the human world are just a mob. What is there to be afraid of? Your Majesty only needs to send an envoy to persuade the immeasurable heavenly Lord to not interfere in the affairs of the three realms. A disaster will then be averted. That is the way to go. The Jade Emperor sneered. Last time, I followed your plan and made him the Emperor equal to heaven. Now, in less than a quarter of an hour, you want to fix it again? What position do you want to make him? Phone woofing. Do you want me to agree to Beichen's change of position? There is no reward, so I can only grant him death. Tai Bai Jinxing's face turned pale. He had no choice but to leave. In the heavenly court, the Jade Emperor had nowhere to retreat. In the human world, the Lord of Mount Tai looked at the two suns in the sky and laughed happily. The Lord of Mount Hua asked in confusion, Brother, why did you agree to the immeasurable heavenly Lord to tilt Mount Tai and collapse the Jade Emperor's peak? That grand Empyrean deliberately humiliated brother and ordered Mount Tai to rise. Now that the Jade Emperor's peak has collapsed, that grand Empyrean will definitely blame your Majesty. Why take such a big risk for the immeasurable heavenly Lord? He is that damned monkey's master. Do you think I'm helping that monkey? The Lord of Mount Tai countered with a laugh. Now is not the time to settle accounts. Not only will the Jade Emperor not make things difficult for me, he will even issue a decree to appease me. Otherwise, if he forces me and the purple micro-imperial emperor to rebel, wouldn't the words of the Emperor of Heaven become true? Great heavenly venerate Jade Emperor is the best at enduring, and I'm not helping that monkey, I'm harming him. I don't know why the immeasurable heavenly Lord wants to force that monkey to rebel, but how many immortals and gods in the three realms don't know the inside story of the Spirit Mountain? Only those small immortals and gods wouldn't know the inside story and would be frightened. Now that the news has circulated for so long, everyone who should know by now. This was originally a method that the great heavenly venerate used to control Sun Wukong. It was a method to force the great emperors equal to heaven to attack Wukong. It was originally a way to make the two great enemies of the heavenly court fight each other and use Sun Wukong as a blade. Do you believe that after the Monkey King attacks Lawless and shows signs of weakness, the heavenly court's immortals will immediately come to help, and the heaven's equal emperor will suppress and subdue the Monkey King? Who could be fooled by such a method? But the immeasurable heavenly Lord is really an interesting person. I can't believe there is a master who would trick his disciple like this. Your Majesty, are you saying that the recent purple micro-palace shift, the tilting of Mount Tai, and the sign of two suns in the sky are all forcing the Monkey King to rebel? Otherwise, why would I agree to his request? The Lord of Mount Tai laughed. The immeasurable heavenly Lord is forcing the Monkey King to rebel. Although the auspicious prophecies concocted by the demons are heart-wrenching, if the Jade Emperor wants to, he can just laugh it off. Why would the immortals and gods take it seriously? But when the immeasurable heavenly Lord makes a move, the two suns in the sky, the tilting of Mount Tai, and the moving of North Star Palace shift, how can the Jade Emperor tolerate it? He can't tolerate it. He must be punished. Otherwise, The heavenly courts, heavenly rules, and the authority of the great heavenly Lord will all go down the drain. The Lord of Mount Tai smiled as he looked at the two suns above his head, one bright and the other dim, and said happily, "It won't be long before we can see the scene of the heavenly court's army and Sun Wukong killing each other, turning mountains of corpses and seas of blood. Spiritual Mountain will be stained with blood again." In the Mahavira Hall, Mahamuri, the 10,000-year-old Fox King, Bull Demon King, and the others stared at the two suns above their heads. They looked at each other for a long time before Mama Yuri whispered, "Did you do this? Who dares to go so far?" The 10,000-year Fox King complained, "Isn't this risking our lives?" The Bull Demon King said in a low, muffled voice, "I wanted to take advantage of the fact that Spiritual Mountain is ownerless to support the great Emperor, Heaven's equal, and occupy this Spiritual Mountain, the tens of thousands of mountains and rivers of Westy State. We brothers can also play around. With the great Emperor, Heaven's equal in charge, we don't need to fear the Heavenly Court's siege. But we don't have the guts to provoke them like this. The Heavenly Court will definitely send troops to attack us. We might as well go back to my Gile Mountain." Mahamuri and the 10,000-year Fox King, the two of them, immediately exchanged looks. "I think the great Emperor, Heaven's equal, is finished. Then let's make a strategic retreat." All right. Chapter 946. The great Thunderclap Temple that used to be the pure land of Mount Numinous and the majestic Buddhist land was now a place where demons and demons gathered. The Monkey King squatted on the eaves of the hall of great strength beside the divine beast Chow Phone. He rested his cheeks on his hands and looked into the distance. The monkey's gaze was a little absent-minded, as if there was no focus, but it also felt like he was looking down at the three realms from every direction. He looked up at the moon and sighed. Master, at the same time, Chenong, who was walking in the ultimate and looking at the sun formed by his right eye, suddenly raised his head and smiled. He turned back into the sun. Chow Fong, who was squatting on the eaves, carefully moved to the side. He was filled with grievances. After being invited to the great Thunderclap Temple by the bald donkeys for thousands of years, this was the first time Chow Fong met a celestial that fought with him for his position. Moreover, that monkey was really fierce. He brutally killed the old bald donkey that was in charge of the great Thunderclap Temple right under his nose. It could be said to be brutal and devoid of divinity. As a young Chow Fong, although he had a noble bloodline, he still couldn't afford to offend him. Thinking of this, Chow Fong shrunk to the side again and tried to shrink his body as much as possible. He lowered his long neck to reduce his presence. The Monkey King didn't seem to care about this cowardly Chow Fong. He glanced at the foot of Mount Numinous and revealed a mocking sneer. At the foot of Mount Numinous, a group of strange people wearing modern clothing that didn't fit in with the surroundings were discussing softly. Among the transmigrators, there was a monk, an old Taoist, a middle-aged Taoist with a goatee, a pedant, and even a brawny, butcher-like man. The apron in front of his crotch was full of oil stains, and his chest hair that was as thick as a palm fluttered in the wind. Of course, the youthful Chinong was also there. The Arhut put his palms together and said to the crowd, "Mount Numinous was destroyed, and the Monkey King killed Buddha. I'm going to the east to look for the few bodhisattvas that didn't show themselves during the calamity of Mount Numinous. I'm going to tell them everything that I saw on Mount Numinous and ask for their guidance. If you don't want to go with me, I'll take my leave now." "Wait," the brawny man stopped him. "If you meet the bodhisattvas, will you tell them where we came from?" The Arhut was silent for a moment before nodding. "I have nothing to hide from bodhisattva. That won't do." Immediately, someone clamored, "If you sell the secret of our origins, won't we all suffer? Little monk, you have to come with us." "Stop fighting, everyone." The middle-aged Taoist ran back and hurriedly stopped the conflict that was about to break out. He told everyone, "I changed my appearance just now and blended into the group of demons. Do you know what era it is now? Because of this, I almost slipped up and was captured by my fellow patrolling demons. We witnessed the Monkey King slaying the Buddha with our own eyes. When we rushed out of the river of cosmic light, we caught a glimpse of the Bull Demon King. This should be the era after the westward journey. The era after the westward journey. The butcher-like brawny man muttered. The demon Taoist smiled bitterly. I thought so too. But when I tested him, damn it, I was shocked. That fellow demon didn't know about the Nanjan section state. And he didn't know if there was a Tang of the East, let alone Tripitaka and the westward journey. I asked him if he had heard of the Monkey King wreaking havoc in the heavenly palace. And he actually said, what did he say? The butcher-like brawny man said anxiously, don't keep us in suspense. The demon Taoist whetted everyone's appetite and attracted everyone's attention. He then said with satisfaction, the great emperor, equal of heaven, fought his way out of the divine court of Mount Tai. On the celestial river, he destroyed the celestial river navy and captured the lord of Mount Tai. The demons of the 4 continents surrounded the southern heavenly gate for 2 months. Only then did they force the Jade Emperor to confer the title of the Monkey King as the Great Emperor, equal of heaven, in the Lingxiao Palace. That was just last year, and this year, the Great Emperor, equal of heaven, is rebelling again. This time, he's going to kill the heavenly court and force the Jade Emperor to change his position. Havoc in the heavenly palace? Someone exclaimed. Havoc in the heavenly palace? How did he kill Buddha, Tathagata? Shouldn't the Monkey King be suppressed under the 5 Elements mountain? That's the saying of a novelist. The old keeper sneered. I've looked through the ancient books, and the records about the westward journey are very vague. Some say that it wasn't the spread of Buddhism to the east, but that the heavenly court brought back the Buddhist scriptures. Buddhism is deeply rooted in the Aparagodania. Although it has declined in the modern era and was replaced by Sanskrit, there are still many sects that survive. But in the Nanjan section state, in the Central Plains, the rise and fall of Buddhism were very abrupt and short. From Amitabha's teachings to the rise of the Pure Land of ultimate bliss and the spread of Mahayana Buddhism, to the departure of the Pure Land and the arrival of the Dharma ending, only 2,000 years have passed. The old Taoist from the Orthodoxy Source Pavilion sneered. The shamanic Buddhism is nothing. That Buddhism is the founder of our Taoism, Taishang Laojun. He left the Han Valley and turned into Amitabha to educate the barbarians and deliver them from suffering. Our Central Plains has its own true teachings. There's no need for Buddhism. Amitabha is just one of the 81 incarnations of Laojun. The Arhat Bhikkhu couldn't help but retort. Buddhism originates from Buddha Sakyamuni, who has boundless wisdom and delivered all living beings from suffering. That Taishang Laojun received the teachings of Buddha Sakyamuni and became enlightened, turning into Amitabha and entering the right path. Your Taoism is just a branch of Buddhism. It can't deliver all living beings from suffering. It can't transcend the sea of bitterness. It's just a ghost guarding a corpse. The old Taoist didn't bother to retort and only sneered. Your Buddha was just killed. The Arhat Bhikkhu was embarrassed and angry. His face turned red as he retorted, how can Buddha be killed by a mere monkey? That was just Buddha borrowing its hand to attain peace from nirvana. Nirvana. Buddha was cleansed from nirvana. How can this be called being killed? The old Taoist flicked his sleeves and continued to sneer. Your Buddha was just killed by the Monkey King. The Arhat Bhikkhu's face turned green from anger. He knew that the old Taoist wouldn't listen to his explanation and would only repeat the same sentence to humiliate him. He immediately raised the monk's staff in his hand, wanting to defend the right path and send this vile being who insulted Buddha down to the 18th level of hell. He shouted, I want him to experience the mad demon staff technique that I've cultivated and let him know that Lord Buddha's dignity is inviolable. The old Taoist didn't want to be outdone. He swung his iron horsetail whisk with a force of 10,000 kilograms. A graze would kill and a touch would injure. He pointed at the Arhat Bhikkhu's nose and scolded, my iron horsetail whisk weighs 81 kilograms. It's made from 1,000-year-old iron from overseas and complemented with my 40-year Taiji horsetail whisk. Come and try. I'll beat you until your face is blooming. The others quickly went up and held hands and legs to prevent the first bloodbath among the transmigrators from erupting on the spot. The middle-aged demon Taoist didn't dare to keep them in suspense and quickly said, "Stop quarreling. This isn't the time when I wreaked havoc in heaven. Daozu had just left Hanga Pass last year." Hearing that he had just left Hanga Pass, everyone couldn't help but stop what they were doing. The old Taoist's hands were even trembling. He couldn't even hold the 1,000-year-cold iron horsetail whisk in his hand. He asked with a trembling voice, "What did you just say?" The middle-aged Taoist understood his behavior. He had heard this news just now and was almost caught. He said word by word, Daozu, Taishang Lao Jun, Da Tianzun, left Hanga Pass last year with perfected Wen Shi, the Monkey King, and the most mysterious heavenly lord of Taoism, the immeasurable heavenly lord. I've asked that demon 7 times, and it's clear. There are no lies. I'm going to Hanga Pass. The old Taoist didn't want to fight anymore. He hugged the horsetail whisk and headed east. Tears streamed down the wrinkled face of a white-haired man. His white beard and eyebrows were messed up by the wind. His hands were trembling, and he spoke incoherently. "I want to go to Hanga Pass to see the heavenly lord of Tao and virtue, to see Patriarch Wen Shi. My sect is really Lao Juan's direct line of Tao, Lu Guan Dao's other teachings." "Patriarch," the old Taoist wailed, "the unfilial Qing Chunzi is here to kowtow." As he said this, he was about to kneel on the ground and kowtow to the ground with his white-haired head. The other transmigrators hurried to help him up. However, the old Taoist forced them to kneel to greet the patriarch. The other transmigrators were also in an uproar. The old scholar was so excited that he spoke incoherently. It's actually the time when Lao Jun left Hanga Pass. Teacher, and Yinzi, Zhengzi, Zizi, a middle-aged man in Confucian robes held the spring and autumn bamboo slips in his hands excitedly. The burly man and a few other transmigrators who were slightly calmer gathered together and discussed in a low voice. "Originally, we wanted to hold the monk hostage so that the secret of where we came from could not be leaked. But now those Taoist priests are going crazy. They have a lot of people, and their supernatural powers are stronger than everyone else. I'm afraid it'll be hard to stop them from meeting me. There are many people who want to meet me. I think most of them are tempted." Chapter 9:47. At dawn, the Monkey King had already sat on the eaves of the roof of the great Lane Temple for the entire night. However, when the first ray of morning light shone on the golden glass roof of the Great Strength Hall, the Monkey King saw an auspicious cloud in the sky. The auspicious cloud with golden edges shone with sunlight and landed in front of the spiritual mountain. An acquaintance of the Monkey King walked down from it. The old Lord Tai Bai Jinxing, who had white hair and looked kind and amiable, was Tai Bai Chongqing Xing. Tai Bai Jinxing brought the Jade Emperor's imperial edict. He looked at the Monkey King with a complicated gaze. In the end, Lord Tai Bai Jinxing unfolded the Jade Emperor's imperial edict and announced, "There's a demon monkey from the lower realm, the Monkey King. He has a deep root of evil and is stubborn. He has a violent personality and has invaded the netherworld of Mount Tai and caused trouble for the Heavenly River Navy. This is a crime of treason. After I pardoned him, I sent someone to Lord Tai Bai Jinxing and asked him to beg for mercy on my behalf. I pitied his cultivation and forgave him. I even conferred him the title of the Great Emperor's equal. Now that he had not been rebellious for long, he had returned to his old ways. The Western sect's venerable Buddha persuaded him. However, he was still harmed by him. The impudence of the demonic monkey. The Prime Minister followed suit. The past was not forgotten. It caused more harm. Those who were involved, they repeatedly violated the heavenly grace and could not be punished. Pardon all living beings in the 3 realms. Those who kill the Monkey King will be bestowed the title of the Great Emperor of Demon Subduing and Demon Subduing of the heavenly courts. The treasure of the great heavenly venerable Jade Emperor. After Lord Tai Bai Jinxing announced the imperial edict, he saw that the demons in the Great Lane Temple were terrified, as if they were facing a calamity. Only the Monkey King was unmoved and only smiled at him. The Monkey King smiled and said, "If anyone else had come to announce this imperial edict, I would have long killed him with a stick and thrown him to the subordinates below to wipe their butts. However, you are here today. It's not easy for me to attack. I'll let you go." Tai-Bai Jinxing smiled bitterly. "Thank you, great sage, for being merciful and sparing my life." Normally, the Jade Emperor's imperial edict would be received by someone. However, this imperial edict was a declaration of rebellion, so it was impossible for anyone to receive it. Therefore, the celestial ambassador had to go back and deliver the edict without delay. Most of the time, angels would find it troublesome to stay in front of the traitors, so why would they delay? But today, Lord Tai-Bai Jinxing really wanted to talk to the Monkey King, so he sighed, put away the imperial edict, and asked, "Great sage, why did you do this?" "Ha ha ha." Monkey King smiled and said, "I also want to ask this question, but since my master wants me to rebel, I will rebel. Anyway, I won't be happy. Lord Tai-Bai Jinxing, I'll ask you to ask great heavenly venerable Jade Emperor. That day, I was tricked into the great Lane Temple. He and the immortals of the heavenly courts framed me. My master added fuel to the fire, and things ended up like this today. Was it still under his control? Did he expect it? He wanted to frame me and use me to fight with Wu Tian. Now I'm rebelling. Has he ever regretted it?" Tai-Bai Jinxing sighed. "How can the great heavenly venerable regret it? He can't regret it either." The Monkey King laughed even more wildly, almost crying. He laughed loudly and said, "I still want to ask my master. Master is very kind, and all my skills were taught by him. If he is unhappy with great heavenly venerable Jade Emperor, he can just tell me. When did I ever hesitate when I killed my way up to the 9 heavens and destroyed the Lingxiao Palace of the Golden Arches? If he gave the order, I would throw the 3 realms into chaos and break the universe. But this time, I suddenly know that my master really wants me to die. He wants to force me into a corner and kill until there is no peace in the 3 realms. Blood will flow like rivers. All living beings will fall, and the heavenly courts will collapse. If not, great heavenly venerable Jade Emperor wouldn't be so decisive." The Monkey King looked up to the sky and shouted, "Master! Master!" Tai-Bai Jinxing's eyebrows trembled slightly, and he denied with difficulty, "Great sage, you must be joking. Why would a heavenly venerable have such intentions? He most likely just wants to test you. He must have put in a lot of effort. If you can clear your name and quell the calamity, you can become a pillar of the 3 realms. Naturally, you can return to the heavenly venerable." The Monkey King grinned and shook his head. "Old man, you really don't know my master. I am a monkey born from stone, but in terms of heart of stone, I can't compare to my ancestor. Maybe he just wants to see how far my disciple can be forced and what he can do. For this, even if the 3 realms fall and all living beings fall, it's just a smile from him. My ancestor never considers the consequences when he does things because no matter what the consequences are, they are nothing to him. So he always does things on a whim and ends up destroying them. I only understood this after reading 13 of Grandmaster's notes, which contained a total of 12,600 experiments. At that point, even Lord Tai-Bai Jinxing did not dare to continue. He hurriedly bade farewell to the Monkey King and returned to the heavenly courts to submit the decree. The heavenly courts' demon-quelling army would arrive soon. They would bring with them the remaining power of suppressing more than 1,000 tribulations in the 3 realms and overturn the demon court on the spiritual mountain. Among the demons, there were many restless ones. Even those who did were mostly intimidated by the might of the heavenly courts. The enemy was right in front of them, and the heavenly courts army was about to arrive. It was hard to say how many demons in the world could become the Monkey King's capable subordinates. The Monkey King held the star God Precious Iron and waited for the moment the battle would begin. The transmigrators from afar relied on the little magical power they had cultivated and traveled across mountains and rivers towards the direction of the Nanjan section continent, hoping to meet the Tao ancestor on the way. However, only when they set foot on the road did they realize how vast the 4 major continents of ancient times were. It was actually thousands of times larger than the era they were in. Moreover, there were mountain godlands everywhere. The heavenly court's influence was deeply rooted and controlled every mountain and river on the four continents. To them, their strength was unbelievably powerful. There are also demons hiding in the mountains. Occasionally, they would attack and eat people. A few transmigrators who had human principles looked at the middle-aged goat demon with a strange gaze. Most of the transmigrators only had the cultivation of an ordinary demon. Only the Arhut, the old Taoist, the middle-aged demon, the butcher, and Chunong had displayed abilities that had reached the level of a demon king. Moreover, most of them were demon kings that were more water-type. For example, the black bear spirit, who could exchange a few blows with the monkey king, was far inferior. In terms of immortal records, there were only 2 or 3 who could make it to the heavenly courts as an itinerant immortal. Some of the transmigrators seemed to have misjudged the demon's strength. The old keeper trembled with fear. Every time he ran into danger, he'd run as fast as he could. Before the other transmigrators could react, he'd disappeared without a trace. After a few times, someone protested against his selfless act of betraying his teammates. "Can you not run so fast? If you met a rabbit spirit, you would run faster than her." The old keeper retorted, "Did you see the power of the Monkey King? Among us, how many of us can withstand the wind generated by the Jingu Bang? On the westward journey, any demon could exchange a few blows with the Monkey King. If we run into a demon like that, we'll die one after another." Chapter 948. In any case, the transmigrators were all cultivators, so they moved very quickly. In less than a month, they had already reached the foot of Mount Kunlun. The majestic Kunlun ancestral mountain range spanned across Nanjing State and Apergodania State. It was the natural boundary between the two states. The endless yellow sand of Apergodania State had an additional hint of gentleness brought by the melted snow of Mount Kunlun. The winding river formed many oases in the Gobi Desert. The oases followed the river and formed a string, like green pearls strung together by silver threads in the yellow sand of the Gobi Desert. This was an uninhabited area that stretched for thousands of miles. The transmigrators had been walking along the river for 3 days. Due to the slow speed of riding the wind and clouds, other than crossing mountains and rivers, they had to ride the wind and clouds to cross the rugged terrain of the river valleys. At other times, they had to use the divine feet, Arhut Bhikkhu, stick yellow talismans on their armor and horses, or use escape techniques. In short, they had to use all their abilities and didn't dare to fall behind. Most of the rivers here originate from the snowy peaks of Tangula and Kunlun. If we follow this dried-up river, we should be at the foot of the Kunlun mountain range. Chinong pointed the way. Someone said, doubtfully, "The terrain of the ancient times is too different from the future. How can you be so sure? This place is too scary." The old keeper mumbled, "The divine light of metamagnet that I cultivate can no longer distinguish directions after entering the Gobi Desert. The baleful wind that blew 2 days ago had a baleful aura as thick as a steel knife, and the black sand was like cold iron. Mixed with the baleful aura, not to mention a body of flesh and blood, even a treasure made of pure gold wouldn't be able to withstand it." "You're still talking, you idiot," old Taoist Xingshun said angrily. "You actually dared to use the divine light of metamagnet to protect yourself in the baleful black wind. In the end, the astral winds in the sky intersected with the baleful black windstorm, and the pure iron in the black sand was all attracted to you. The collision of the astral winds and the baleful earth turned into divine thunder. With the help of the metallic black sand, it turned into 99 layers of golden wind fiend divine thunder. Even a heavenly tribulation isn't that scary. I've lived an ignoble life of more than 350 years. I was lucky enough to see Daozu, but I was almost killed by you. There's also the last time." The butcher also scolded angrily. "You rode on the divine rays of metamagnet and flew across the river valley, yet you ran so fast yourself. I was behind you when I ran into the river valley and was startled by the evil spirits. The poisonous water gushed upwards, killing all the plants, birds, and beasts within several hundred miles. If I hadn't sacrificed a life-saving spirit talisman and transformed into a ray of light to escape, I would have turned into pus if I had touched even a little bit of the chaos fiend poisonous water. Also, the last time you startled the great demon in the valley, it spat out miasma and almost swallowed me alive. I was almost killed by you. That voice called our names, but you didn't even look back. You ran so fast, and you didn't even warn me. I was careless, and when I looked back, I almost died at the hands of that demon. If not for Senior Chun Ong saving me and bestowing upon me a secret divine ability that allows me to summon the souls of others, you would have to give me an explanation. Don't blame me for calling out your name. The keeper had long since incurred the wrath of the heavens and the people, and now that someone had taken the lead in denouncing him, many of the transmigrators were rubbing their fists, eager to teach him a lesson. The keeper had no choice but to admit his wrongs, apologize, and promise many benefits. Furthermore, he was an erudite and talented person, and had many uses among the transmigrators, so he hadn't been surrounded and attacked. Furthermore, the keeper was a master of escape arts, and was most adept at fleeing for his life. He was also as timid as a mouse, and more alert than most. He had always adhered to the adage that if you can't run from danger, you think I can't outrun you? Although he had caused trouble time and time again, each time he was able to escape one step ahead of everyone else. That was why he had conned so many people. With so many people here, if Chun Ong and the other experts didn't make a move, it would be impossible to take him down. The keeper wanted to change the subject, but his keen senses told him that something wasn't right up ahead. Look at that oasis, he said, pointing. Something's wrong. Everyone used their divine abilities to peer ahead. Sure enough, 100 miles away, there seemed to be traces of people in an oasis by the river. However, it was mealtime, and no one was there. Several people with powerful magic powers flew into the oasis, and in a short while, they landed in the middle of the oasis. The middle-aged Taoist couldn't help but exclaim as soon as he touched the ground. The others also looked serious. The oasis was littered with skeletons. Some of the dried corpses seemed to be struggling, and their expressions were ferocious, as if they had died a painful death. The old Taoist Ching Chun looked around and said gravely, "These must be the nomadic Guifeng Rong people. I don't know why, but the entire tribe is dead." I looked around and found that the Yin energy here was very thick, and there was even a hint of ferocity. It must have been a plague or something foul that killed them. However, the people here didn't die suddenly. I looked behind me, and there were many newly built graves. The entire tribe must have struggled for a month and buried nearly half of its people before they were suddenly massacred. The butcher stood in front of the two skeletons, and his expression was a bit puzzled. As the transmigrators arrived one after another, they also made a judgment of the situation. Everyone thought that this place shouldn't be far from the Kunlun 100 countries. After passing through the Kunlun Mountains, they would reach the Guifeng tribe. After passing through the Guifeng tribe, they would reach the river plain where the righteous canal was. They had only walked a few steps in the tribe's ruins when someone smelled an extremely strange smell. It was a bit like the stench of wild beasts, with a strong smell of decay. A few people came closer to take a look. It turned out to be a row of clay pots, neatly arranged in a row, placed under the mud wall. Someone curiously came closer to take a look and couldn't help but cry out in surprise. These jars are filled with human heads. The old keeper came closer, and sure enough, he saw that there was a tightly stuffed black ball at the belly of the jar. He broke one, and the round head rolled out. It was a human head, and it was the head of the Guifeng Rong people. Its eyes were wide open, and its expression was extremely fierce. One of the transmigrators said with a trembling voice, "The opening of this jar, it shouldn't be able to fit a human head." Everyone looked, and sure enough, the opening of the jar was only the size of a fist. Not to mention a human head, even the radius of the neck was larger than it. Someone sneered, "You're a cultivator, and this kind of small matter can be done with the shrinking technique." He picked up an empty jar beside him and placed it on his head. Sure enough, he easily stuck his head in. His voice buzzed out from the jar, "Look, I've stuffed it in. Nonsense. Everyone shook their heads and laughed. They were all cultivators. Who were they trying to scare with this little trick? After a cursory inspection, they did not have any intention of avenging the tribe. They only used a spell, and from the aura of some of the tribe's precious items, they found traces of people in front of them. After confirming the direction, they were about to hurry over. At this moment, someone saw that the transmigrator was still wearing the jar, and couldn't help but mock. "Are you going to keep wearing it?" When the old Taoist, Bhikkhu, and the burly man heard that, they hurriedly turned back to look. A person with a jar on his head was standing behind them, not answering. The old Taoist's expression changed, and he couldn't help but scold, "Don't come near. He's no longer a human." The Arhat Bhikkhu looked shocked and angry. He held the Buddhist beads and kept chanting the name of Buddha. "The Inchi is so heavy. I'm afraid this is the filth that caused the massacre of this tribe. I told you not to court death. How dare you act recklessly with just a little supernatural power? Do you really think this is still the world we lived in? Who knows how many dangerous ghosts there were in ancient times? Don't forget, the underworld is still around." The old Taoist scolded. However, Chun Ong reminded, "The underworld is still around. How can there be such ghosts in broad daylight? Could it be that something happened to the underworld?" "Senior, you're thinking too much." The burly man could still smile. "We don't know what's going on in the ancient underworld. Can't they occasionally miss a few ghosts?" Someone couldn't help but strike out with a palm lightning to test it out. The lightning easily shattered the jar, revealing the head inside. They saw that the person's head had disappeared, and what was hanging around his neck was the head that was contained in the broken jar. Everyone looked at where the head was, but the broken jar was no longer there. Instead, there was a complete jar. Everyone didn't need to look to know whose head was inside. The old Taoist roared, "Heaven and earth are boundless. Borrow the power of the universe." The iron horsetail whisk in his hand expanded, and silver threads swept out, slapping the ghost's body. Countless lightning bolts interweaved into millions of tiny silver snakes, about to turn the ghost into ashes. The human head flew up and turned into a hideous and terrifying strange bird with 2 ears as wings. It allowed the body to be refined by the lightning. The old Taoist cursed, "Madhurf Astris Kur. If it weren't for you, my precious horsetail whisk would have been greatly damaged by the metal wind, chaos, divine thunder. Would I have fallen to such a state?" Chin Ong reminded loudly, "Be careful. That's a Chongjiao." The Chongjiao, whose head had transformed into a vicious bird, let out a sharp screech. The group of transmigrators covered their ears to resist the sharp screech. When the screech faded away, everyone was unharmed. The brawny man sneered, "With your meager abilities, you can harm mortals, but you want to harm us." Before he finished speaking, his face started to turn pale. He saw that the row of more than 30 jars had all started to crack because of the Chongjiao's cry, and the things inside were ready to move. The transmigrators looked at the Chongjiao that had just killed one of them. After weighing the pros and cons, they realized that even the old Taoist Qingchun, who was one of the top 3 in terms of magical power, could only tie with the Chongjiao. If he joined forces with the Buddha Bhikkhu, perhaps after a bitter battle, they could destroy the Chongjiao. There were no more than 10 people here who could help, and there were more than 30 jars that could transform into the Chongjiao. Using elementary math, they could roughly analyze the situation. Thus, the old keeper was the first to react. He turned into a beam of light and fled for his life. The others followed. Even Chun Ong was no exception. Someone flew into the air and looked back, only to see the countless strange birds and monsters that had turned into human heads chasing them. In the tribe, a few withered poplars pulled out their roots, and within the roots, a few withered corpses were struggling. Ghosts danced by the river, and white dogs ran on the ground, carrying corpses. In a breath's time, the small tribe by the river had turned into a ghostly domain. In the shadow of the ghostly domain, an indescribable existence's gaze remained in his last memory. Fan. Chapter 949. Sky. Sky Ghost. The old Taoist said in a trembling voice. The ghost in the wind was completely different from the ferocious and terrifying Chongjiao human-headed tree, and hang ghost in the realm of ghosts below. It looked like a thinner person, and its skin had become very gray. The scariest thing was that it seemed to have retained its intelligence from when it was alive. It smiled at the old Taoist. The sky ghost was a kind of ghost that had become extinct in the future and was only recorded in the ancient books. Rather than saying it was a ghost in the netherworld, it was better to say it was a god among ghosts. It was a kind of ghost god that had the same effect as the Buddhist guardian Ajura in the 6 paths of reincarnation. It was the celestial being of the hungry ghost path. It was also said that the celestial being was guilty of heinous crimes and was sent into the hungry ghost path by Sakra heaven. It was a kind of ghost that was comparable to immortals. The old Taoist had never thought that he could witness the birth of a sky ghost with his own eyes. Moreover, it was not formed by the celestial being, nor was it in the hungry ghost path. Instead, it was in this bright human world. An ordinary cultivator just took a glance at the realm of ghosts and was born into a fierce creature like the sky ghost. When the old Taoist came to his senses, he let out a scream and risked his life to say something. His conveyance light sped up by 10 times and turned into a beam of conveyance light, rapidly overtaking many travelers in front of him. As he ran for his life, he transmitted his voice through his divine thoughts. Something must have happened in the netherworld. At least it must be a terrible disaster like the Monkey King being sent into the netherworld. Otherwise, the sky ghost wouldn't have appeared in the human world. In front of him, Chun Ong answered faintly. The sky ghost is formed by the celestial being falling into the hungry ghost path. Now that it has appeared in the human world, it is a sign that the 6 paths are in chaos and the human world is about to turn into a boundless realm of ghosts. At least, something must have happened to the celestial being and the hungry ghost path at the same time for such a terrible thing to happen. Buddha Tathagata has passed away. Could it be that something happened to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva as well? The old Taoist couldn't help but exclaim. The keeper, who was running at the front, was even more pessimistic. He said, "I'm afraid it's not just Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. The ancient celestial court is at its peak. In the netherworld, there are countless mighty beings such as the Lord of Mount Tai, the 5 mountains monarchs, the incarnation of the great emperor of Ziwei, Fengdu the Great, the emperor of Qing Xian, the Tai Nirvana heavenly lord, and the 5 ghost emperors. Yinluo of the 10 court is just a junior, not even worth mentioning. Don't forget about sky-bearing Empress Hutu." Chenong reminded from afar. "Forget about the others. Fengdu the Great was originally the incarnation of the heavenly emperor of supreme polarity, monarch Go-Chun. Later on, the great emperor of supreme polarity wanted to unify the 3 realms and descended to the netherworld. The heavenly emperor of supreme polarity abdicated and became the 2nd Fengdu the Great. After that, the Lord of Mount Tai unified the netherworld, and the great emperor of supreme polarity gave way, allowing Fengdu the Great to serve under the Lord of Mount Tai. That's how the Lord of Mount Tai and the great emperor of Dong Yu came to rule the 2 ghost kingdoms of Fengdu and Haoli. Fengdu the Great was reduced to an incarnation of the great emperor of supreme polarity. Chun Ong explained with his profound attainments in theology, and the Lord of Mount Tai has always been suppressed by the Jade Emperor. After losing to the Monkey King, I'm sure he's not having a good time. Now that the netherworld is in trouble, he's probably watching the fire from the other side. I'm afraid he's even happier to see it. Yin Luo of the 10 palaces is just a small fish in the underworld that the Jade Emperor weighed. He's nothing to worry about. The sky-bearing empire imitated the Hutu Empress. Although she has a high status, she's long gone into hiding. Otherwise, the Queen Mother of the West wouldn't be happy. Spirited Mountain is in trouble, and the Buddha's nirvana is gone. I'm afraid Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva won't be able to sit still in the underworld. The only thing to worry about is the Qing Xian Emperor of 9 sons and the Lord of Tai Nirvana. This heavenly lord is a veteran. It can be said that he's more like the Emperor of Heaven than the great Emperor of Supreme Polarity and the Lord of Mount Tai. The Jade Emperor has been suppressing him in every possible way to force him to change his godly title. His real body is in charge of the underworld. Even a lord of Mount Tai is a junior in front of him. If we don't take into account the river diagram, I'm afraid his supernatural powers are no match for the nine-headed lion he sits on. With his great god in charge, the underworld should be as stable as Mount Tai. The day before yesterday, Mount Tai tilted to the east. There were two suns in the sky, and the North Star moved its palace. Isn't this a good sign that something has happened to those three important people? The old keeper was terrified. I'm afraid this is an era that will be erased from history. If that's the case, then it's a good thing. The old Taoist Qin Chun sighed. Then nothing big will happen in the future. But Buddha Tathagata is dead. What's not a big deal? I'm just afraid that we've messed up history and released the Monkey King. The transmigrators shuddered when they heard this. The old keeper murmured, "We've caused a huge disaster." The brawny man turned around and saw that among the transmigrators, there were a few who had fallen behind and disappeared without a trace. He knew that they had met with misfortune. He sighed and asked Shunong, "Senior, what is the identity of the Tai Nirvana Polarity Great Emperor of the Eastern Pole? Does the change in the underworld have anything to do with him?" Shunong sneered and said, "How many people in history can make the Jade Emperor so fearful? Who is Emperor Donghua? You don't have to ask to know. He commands countless itinerant immortals on the 3 islands and 10 continents. He holds the title of Duke of the East and Emperor Donghua of the 5 Elders of the 5 Directions. In the underworld, he is known as the Tai Nirvana Polarity Great Emperor and is the head of the 3 Saints of the East. In Buddhism, he has the Buddhist title of Medicine King Bodhisattva. He's so revered in the heavens, the underworld, and the spirit mountain. In the future, he could crush the Monkey King with just a mouth. How could such a person appear out of thin air? Even thousands of years ago, he must have been a famous person. The 9-headed lion, Yuan Venerate Jioling, is probably no match for the Monkey King now. Someone lamented, "The monkey is a ruthless person who killed even Buddha." The old keeper listened to Chenong and thought for a moment before exclaiming, "So it's him. Who is it?" The burly butcher saw that the place where he had been transformed into a horde of ghosts had been left far behind. He called for everyone to descend into a stream of light and descend into a dilapidated mountain temple. His expression was grave as he asked the keeper. The old Taoist Qing Chun finally reacted. He sighed, "That's true. Other than that person, no one else has such a high status." Chunong laughed and said, "Heavenly Lord of Tai and salvation from misery. Isn't this title obvious enough? Other than the Titan Emperor, the Titan God, the Lord of the East Emperor, and Tai, who used to be the Emperor of Heaven, who else could the Jade Emperor be so afraid of? If it were just the Duke of the East, the leader of the Rogue Immortals, the exalted celestial Jade Emperor, the Jade Emperor, who would be so shameless as to kidnap the Queen Mother of the West. In fact, other than the itinerant immortals who entered the 3 islands and 10 continents later, the immortals who cultivated in seclusion were all old subordinates of the Supreme God when he was the Celestial Emperor. That's why the Jade Emperor is so afraid of him. The Prefect of the East Mountain, the Grand Emperor of the North Tenuity, and the others who haven't even touched the Emperor of Heaven are just juniors. With him in charge of the underworld, who could possibly cause so much trouble? Chenong asked, a look of confusion on his face. As they entered the temple, they saw that the wooden statue of the mountain god was charred black, as though it had been burnt by fire. What was left of its face was hideous, like an evil spirit. The keeper and the old Taoist lifted their heads to look, but the keeper was already flying towards them. The old Taoist was a little kinder and spoke up to warn them. "That's a man in a black robe. The seabed isn't moving. The water's rising, and he's going to drown us. Keeper, you're a goner. Run like the wind." Chunong rushed out and said with a smile, "This old Taoist is still a brother Pao who has burned incense. Let's get out of here. This mountain god is haunted." The other transmigrators had long since caught up with the keeper as soon as he'd broken into a run. By now, even the slightest of transmigrators were dead. The only one left was like a monkey. Fortunately, they were fast. By the time the old Taoist had left the temple, the entire structure had transformed into a giant ghostly head. The door was its fanged maw, and the entire mountain had been transformed into a ghostly realm. Countless living creatures had been transformed into evil ghosts, including dog ghosts, wolf ghosts, cat ghosts, boar ghosts, and so on. It was like hell itself. The mountain god that had been pardoned by the heavenly court was dead, and had become a mountain ghost, turning the entire mountain into a ghostly realm. Is this the Witch of Black Mountain? The butcher asked in horror. The Buddhist monk's face was solemn, and he said in a low voice, "No, this is the 7th level of the 8 infernal hells, the scorching hell. The evil ghosts are the result of gods who have violated the precepts and fallen to hell. They suffer all kinds of torment and curse the gods in Buddha's day and night. They're called the Great Scorching Hells of extreme hells." The Buddhist monk's face was full of horror, and he put his palms together and chanted the name of Buddha. These are the evil ghosts of the 8th level of hell. The butcher's focus was clearly on something else. That's good. The 18 hells of mud plow aren't arranged vertically. The keeper sneered. The 8 hells of heat are arranged vertically, and the 8 hells of extreme hells are arranged horizontally. Below the Great Scorching Hell is the Avicii Hell, which is also known as the Avicii Hell. Fruit is Avicii Hell, suffering is Avicii Hell, time is Avicii Hell, life is Avicii Hell, form is Avicii Hell. This is the Avicii prison of Avicii. Avicii without, the nose covers. Avicii without, the nose saves. Avicii without, the nose does not move. Avicii extremely hot. Avicii extremely annoyed. Avicii not idle, the nose does not stop. The Avicii Hell is called the Avicii Hell. Ayin fire, the nose does not stop. The fierce fire enters the heart is called the Avicii Hell. Chapter 950. The transmigrators ran around a few times and were exhausted. They looked at the mountain in front of them that had turned into a ghost god. The dozens of mountain peaks were the territory of the mountain god. Now that the mountain god had turned into a ghost, even the spirits and beasts of the mountain had turned into ferocious ghosts. It was as if they had reappeared in the 8 flames, blazing hell, and the Black Mountain. This was no longer a problem of 1 or 2 evil ghosts in the human world. It was a sign that the human world had turned into the hell realm and the hungry ghost realm. In the 6 paths of reincarnation, the human realm and the animal realm were in the human world. Now that the sky ghost of the hungry ghost realm and the great scorched hell and the Black Mountain of the hell realm had reappeared in the human world, the 3 paths were connected. Now that the evil ghosts and hell were in trouble, how good would the Azura realm be? The sky ghost was the fallen of the celestial realm and was involved with the celestial realm. This meant that the celestial realm was just busy with their own affairs. The 6 paths of reincarnation, was it really going to turn the human world into an endless hell? After the transmigrators escaped from the mountain god temple, they found a deserted place to stay. No one was in the mood to talk. They were all thinking about the changes. Bicho Huishan sat cross-legged at the side and chanted. Old Taoist Chun was thinking about something. Only Chunong was still in the mood to talk to the others. Although I only took a glance at the mountain god and the mountain god temple, I could tell that it was the god who was receiving the talisman. It wasn't a random monster from the wild. The mountain gods and earth gods in this world are all people with organizations, personnel, and backings. Although they are the lowest level officials of the heavenly court and can be ordered by any rank immortal, they are still at the bottom of the organization. Their names are recorded in the Book of Earth and Book of Life and Death. The heavenly court has done a good job in information management. The lifespan of all living beings in the world has been managed online. It can be controlled through the terminal of the Book of Life and Death. I don't believe that no one is managing the divine talisman. The middle-aged demon Taoist stroked his goatee and sighed. Senior, you are right. Even a mountain god conferred by the heavenly court has turned into a ferocious ghost. This netherworld is really messed up. But there is something strange. Chenong frowned and said, "Did you guys notice? Although those ghosts are fierce, they seem to have scruples. Otherwise, if they attacked first in the ghost village and the mountain god temple, we might not be able to escape. Now, it's as if they're intentionally driving us away. Drive us away? The burly man was puzzled. These ghosts are extremely vicious. How can we drive them away? It's like a tiger chasing sheep, avoiding the strong and the weak. Look, the weakest among us are all dead. They're like tigers chasing sheep, letting the stronger ones among us go. The brawny man sneered and said, "Senior's words are too much. Those ghosts don't have any consciousness or intelligence. They only rely on their ferociousness to kill. How could they think, as you say? I think Senior is worrying too much." Unexpectedly, the old Taoist said, just as Taoist Chenong said, "Is the heavenly ghost flying technique inferior to ours? Why didn't he chase after her? Moreover, the heavenly ghost is formed by the celestial beings who have fallen into the evil spirit realm. Its intelligence is not inferior to that of a living being. In fact, it's even more vicious and cunning. Now that I think about it, the heavenly ghost, the Black Mountain ghost, and the scorching flame ghost are indeed holding back. But why? The brawny man was convinced by the two of them and became even more puzzled. Monk Huishan stood up and said, "Everyone, let's not talk about this first. Not far from here is the Western Mother Kingdom. Let's hurry up and go to the Western Mother Kingdom first." When the rest of them heard this, they stopped talking. After confirming the direction, they headed to the Western Mother Kingdom. After passing by a few mountains, they felt that the birds and beasts were silent, and there was a faint demonic atmosphere in the mountains. It was not a good place, so they refused to stop. In front of them was a concave land surrounded by the Kunlun ancestral veins. A few rivers flowed from the Kunlun Mountains and flowed into the valley. Above the valley, there was a country that looked like a paradise. Villages and towns surrounded a small city along the river. Surrounded by towering snow-capped mountains, it was a very beautiful place. When the travelers saw the people, they were overjoyed. They even forgot about the strange things they had just encountered and said, "Is this the Western Mother Kingdom? Monk, how do you know about it?" Monk Huishan replied, "When I entered the mountain god temple, I saw a verse on the banner. It was talking about the origin of the mountain god. It was appointed by the Queen Mother of the West to protect the Western Mother Kingdom. Usually, it fought against the demons and protected the Western Mother Kingdom. Even the Four Seasons sacrificial ceremonies were provided by the Western Mother Kingdom. That's why the hymn recorded it. The Western Mother Kingdom." The old keeper muttered, "Could it be the Western Mother Kingdom that King Mu of the Zhou dynasty met when he was patrolling the lands? The Western Mother Kingdom is an ancient deity. Why would she be interested in a mortal emperor?" The old Taoist laughed. "It's more likely that he had a secret meeting with the Queen of the Western Mother Kingdom. That's just a rumor. Wasn't King Mu afraid that the Jade Emperor would give him a list after his death?" Someone sneered. Chenong laughed and shook his head. "You've been misunderstood. The Western Mother Kingdom and the Jade Emperor were not spouses. They were only in charge of the heavenly court. They were the opposite of each other. You're putting the Jade Emperor's name on a pedestal. You've underestimated the Emperor of Heaven. Hao Tian upholds the laws of the three realms and does not differentiate between yin and yang. The Jade Emperor is the incarnation of Hao Tian. Although he has the body of a man, he is a god. His body is pure and does not involve himself in human relationships. He is not worthy of the Mother Goddess. Whether it is the great Emperor Zi Wei, the great Emperor of Heaven, the great Emperor of Mount Tai, or the great god of Tai Yi, they are all pure and celibate. This is because the heavens and earth are divided into yin and yang. To rule over the three realms, there needs to be a goddess to lead the yin. This is a secondary position, not a spouse. In other words, the Western Mother Kingdom is the Jade Emperor's deputy. She is in charge of controlling female immortals. She is the Empress, and she assists the Jade Emperor. They are not husband and wife. The Jade Emperor's original deputy was actually the Earth God of the Hutu Empress. Later, the Earth God was forced to live in seclusion because of Tathagata's remonstrance and the division of the netherworld samsara into 6 realms. The Jade Emperor invited the Western Mother Kingdom from the Kunlun Jade Pool to be his deputy. This is why I said that the Western Mother Kingdom will be dissatisfied if Lady Hutu comes out. This is because there is only one person on the right side of the Emperor of Heaven. The Western Mother Kingdom is equivalent to the Prime Minister of the Heavenly Court. She is in charge of assisting the heavens and earth to sort out yin and yang. Naturally, she would not want the previous Prime Minister of the Heavenly Court to come out. The Western Mother Kingdom was the Prime Minister of the Heavenly Court when the Tai God ruled the world. She was the goddess on the right side of the Heavenly Court. After the Tai abdicated, she was called the Duke of the East. One was in the East and the other in the West. One was in the 3 islands and 10 continents, the other in the West Kunlun Mountains. They were the 2 immortals who ruled the world together. When the Jade Emperor ascended to the throne, he was first matched with the Earth God of the Hutu Empress. Later, the Western Mother Kingdom invited the Western Mother Kingdom to come out of seclusion and bring the Jade Pool to the Heavenly Court to become the Empress of Yin and Yang. Everyone was shocked by Chun Ang's explanation. The keeper searched his guts and tried to organize his words to refute. He trembled as he recited several Taoist scriptures, trying to prove the legitimacy of the Jade Emperor and the Western Mother Kingdom. Chenong only shook his head. Those who wrote these scriptures have not become immortals yet. Their bullsh *T doesn't count. The Jade Emperor and the Western Mother Kingdom are just a bunch of fools who put their own knowledge on the line. This is the so-called golden shoulder pole of the Emperor. The solitary yang in the world does not last long. That's why he needs a goddess as his assistant. But have you ever heard of a Khanate immortal who has a spouse? The Heavenly Concubine and the Western Mother Kingdom are celestials who assist the Emperor in regulating yin and yang. That's why don't you spread rumors. You made the Tai Emperor Dong Wang Gong, the great Emperor Dong Hua, a cuckold out of nowhere. Hao Hian's incarnation should be a man and a woman. That way, he wouldn't have to go through so much trouble. Chenong was not afraid of death and revealed the secrets of heaven. It's a pity that someone doesn't want to show his female body. That's why the Jade Emperor is in trouble. He even has to steal his assistant. What's wrong with cross-dressing? The Laojun can transform into Goddess Nuwa to match the Tai Ching Laojun's Fushi. Why doesn't he want to transform into the Western Mother Kingdom to match the Jade Emperor? While he was not afraid of death, someone on the other side said, "Reap what you sow. The Laojun's taste is too heavy." Just as he finished speaking, a bolt of lightning appeared out of nowhere. It cut through the sky and struck him dead. He turned into charcoal and died. Even his soul disappeared without a trace. Chenong saw it and sneered. "You don't have any backing. How dare you make up stories about your superior?" Lord Zhao serves you right. He then turned to the stunned transmigrators and said, "Did you see that? That's proof." After listening to these words, I'm afraid you've been recorded in someone's notebook. You'll be on the list in the future. Chapter 9:51. Entering percent and *** and data error, rebooting, adjusting data, reading the world's underlying code. Warning, attracting the attention of the world's consciousness. Giving up reading Akashic records, canceling usurpation authority, stopping loading the Godhead system, stopping loading the Divinity Disguise system, urgently activating the highest level of disguise, communication program entering silent state, entering the world of the prequel to Westward Journey. About 5,000 years ago, the Monkey King wreaked havoc in the Heavenly Court, attacked the Great Lane Temple, and destroyed the sacred land of Spirited Mountain. Buddha Tathagata, who was using his divine sense to fight against the otherworldly Brahmin, unfortunately had his body destroyed and his divine sense lost. He had no choice but to wander outside of Anapanaxia forever, unable to return to the 3 realms. The Monkey King proclaimed himself as the King of Demons. On that day, Mount Tai tilted in the east, and the North Star shifted its palace. There were 2 suns in the sky. The Jade Emperor was deeply disturbed and ordered the virtuous true immortals, solemn gods, and powerful people to go to Spirited Mountain to subdue the demon. This was a great era of despair. Here was born the cruelest, most ferocious, and most terrifying king of demons in history. Sun Wu Kong. Spirited Mountain was destroyed, The heavenly court was about to fall, and the three realms were in danger. There were also unexpected dangers hidden in the darkness. It was the fallen Buddha, it was the endless hell, it was the heavenly Lord Dara, it was the error of time and space, it was the shocking change of the Buddha's corpse, it was the secret of Lord Xian, it was the supreme Brahman. What happened in the end, we have no way of knowing. The gods died, the Buddhas perished, and even the blood of the demons flowed clean. The ancient heavenly court had long disappeared, and there were no more immortals in the world. Magical powers and magic had long become legends, and there were no more extraordinary powers in the world. Cultivation and transcendence had long become folklore, and only one thing had been left to the later generations. There was only one existence that was certain. There were really ghosts in this world. The heavenly realm has been destroyed, and only the netherworld can be seen. It is right in front of you. As long as you open your eyes, wherever you see is not endless hell. This is the world of endless hell and ancient myths, the prequel to Westward Journey. Main Mission 1. Find the lost ancient truth 0/5. The mystery of the heavenly court's destruction, the whereabouts of the Monkey King, the demon's blood, the afterimage of the twilight of the gods, the Zen chant from 5,000 years ago. Side Mission 1. Infernal Hell. Search for the whereabouts of the netherworld. Side Mission 2. Master Exorcist. Kill at least 50 types of monsters. Side Mission 3. Bring Tathagata back and search for Tathagata's reincarnated body. Kill the evil body corresponding to the reincarnated spirit child, so that Buddha Tathagata can sense his physical body and return from the realm of neither thought nor thought. The reincarnated soul child has a swastika symbol on his back. Side Mission 4. Guide the Brahmin to descend and find Rulai's evil reincarnation body. Kill the reincarnated spirit child so that Brahmin can replace Rulai and descend into the three realms to destroy this world. Behind the evil reincarnation body, there is a swastika symbol. Side Mission 5. Find the relic of a reincarnated traveler. A reincarnated traveler once came to this world and caused an unknown impact. Find his relic and determine the time of his arrival. Side Mission 6. On the westward journey, find the whereabouts of the Monkey King, the curtain-lifting general, the canopy marshal, the third prince of the Dragon King of the West Sea, and the Buddha's second disciple, Golden Cicada. Persuade them to go on the westward journey to retrieve the scriptures from the Tempest Temple and save this world. Recommended. Complete Side Mission 3 or 4 first. If you don't complete Side Mission 3 or 4, the Monkey King might beat your doghead off when you see the Tempest Temple's Sutra Depository burned to the ground. Side Mission 7. Kunlun Divine Palace. In the Kunlun mountain range where the Queen Mother of the West resides, hundreds of countries and tribes are scattered in the valley between the Heavenly Mountain and the Kunlun Mountain. The legendary Devil Kingdom is also located there. 5,000 years ago, after the dragon tree Bodhisattva transformed into Geezer and destroyed the Devil Kingdom, it is said that there was a 9-story demon tower hidden in the Kunlun Mountain. The 9-story demon tower hides the secret of the Devil Kingdom. Before the Devil Kingdom was destroyed by the dragon tree Bodhisattva, it was known as the Queen Mother of the West Kingdom. One day, a group of mysterious outsiders came to the Queen Mother of the West Kingdom. They discovered the skeleton of a giant rock at the foot of Mount Sheong. That day, a black wind blew past the foot of Mount Sheong. Hundreds of countries were wiped out in a single night, leaving behind only a group of survivors. The country they built was known as the Devil Kingdom. Find a 9-story demon tower. Through the power of the rock skeleton that built the tower, you can go to the worlds of Mummy 2 and 3. Suggest to go to the worlds of Mummy 2 and 3, where the Undead Empire and Mummy 3 armies are fighting. Obtain the item, Partridge Whistle's Golden Touch Talisman. By using the Partridge Whistle's Golden Touch Talisman, you can summon the Who Bai Trio. It will have an unexpected effect on this side quest and the main quest. Find the Kunlun Divine Palace, Cloud, Top Heavenly Palace. You can use the snake-browed copperfish to go to the worlds of Mummy 2 and 3. Find the 9 doors and obtain the clues to the bronze door. Enter the bronze door and see the Dragon Emperor, Qin First Emperor, behind the door. Persuade the First Emperor to give you the bronze door. Bring it to the three realms. Open the bronze door and you can enter the missing netherworld. It will have an unexpected effect on this side quest and the main quest. Side Quest 8. The Mystery of Lord Xian. Search for the 7 secret chapters of Lord Xian written by Venerable Wen Shi when Ancestor Xian and Venerable Wen Shi traveled to the west. Legend has it that the handwritten copy of this scripture was passed down in Venerable Wen Shi's orthodoxy, Luowan Taoism. It is also said that the 6th prince of Yizu Kingdom, a neighboring country of Daqin, obtained the original copy of this scripture. This scripture is related to the main quest. It is also related to the 1st, 5th, and 7th side quests. Side Quest 8. The Shadow of Times. Search for the relics of the Dragon Tree Bodhisattva, the only survivor after the disaster of the Tempest Temple. Obtain the truth about the destruction of the Tempest Temple. Find the real culprit who caused the destruction of the Tempest Temple and retrieve the 17 Dipankara ancient Buddha relics. This mission is related to the Zen chant from 5,000 years ago in the main quest. Side Quest 9. Buddhist Demon of the Otherworld. Find the relics of the 4 great bodhisattvas who were killed by Buddhist demon and reveal the true face of Buddhist demon. Side Quest 10. Ruins of the Heavenly Court. Find the ruins of the Heavenly Court and obtain the truth about the Battle of the Heavenly Court. This mission is related to the mystery of the destruction of the Heavenly Court in the main quest. Side Quest 11. After completing the main quest, connect all the clues and use the 17 relics of the past Dipankara ancient Buddha to open the space-time anomaly of the Tempest Temple. Use the power of Sakya's 5 seals to return to 5,000 years ago. Activate the second main quest. After completing the quest, all 17 relics will be destroyed. However, new 17 relics will return to the hands of the Monkey King. Second main quest. Use all the clues you have to guide the 3 realms of 5,000 years ago to develop in the direction of the established history. 0/6. The destruction of the Heavenly Court, the disappearance of the Monkey King, the twilight of the deities, the nirvana of the Buddhas, the cleansing of the demonic blood, and the 3 realms turning into hell. After a long time, a group of travelers who accidentally returned to the past due to the disaster of Mount Lingshan finally arrived at the Western Mother Empire. Chapter 952. The group of transmigrators were oblivious to the gazes in the dark. They walked straight to a small village nearby. To avoid shocking the world, the few of them stopped their conveyance lights and walked towards the small village. This was the ancient times, unlike the future where cultivators like them could come and go as they pleased. In places with people, there are city gods everywhere. If cultivators like them dared to fly over the heads of these deities, they would definitely be knocked down by the divine light soaring into the sky, and the deities would also come to condemn them. These are just ordinary earth and city gods. If they accidentally offended the temple of Erlang Xiansheng, the temple of Laojun, or the temple of Third Prince Neza, these great gods would not have the time to find trouble with them. But they did not lack people who wanted to flatter them. Maybe there would be a thunder god who would send down the 99 heavenly tribulations to kill all those who dared to offend them. There were about 40 to 50 families in the small village. There was a cottage facing the main road. There were 2 straw torches hanging from the treetop, indicating that this was a family that sold wine and tea. Luckily, there was no lack of antiques among cultivators. When Qing Chunzi saw this, his face lit up with joy. He said with a smile, "There's a place to rest in the house in front. Let's go and ask about the situation. This Western Mother Kingdom seems to be related to Western Mother. We must not be careless. There was such a strange thing before. I think we can find out the reason here." There were monks and Taoists among the group of transmigrators. They were a mix of good and bad people. There were also some cultivators who were mostly modern cultivators. Qing Chenzi asked everyone to dress like Taoists. It was not convenient to travel in ancient times. Many places had no outsiders in their lives. Other than merchants, it was only convenient to dress like monks and Taoists. Luckily, cultivators were used to it. Other than Huishan, who refused, and only wore the tattered kasaya. The others changed into Taoist robes and went to knock on the door of the farmer's house. After knocking for a long time, someone inside asked with extreme vigilance, "Who are you?" Qing Chunzi flicked his horsetail whisk and made a familiar sage-like posture. He pretended to be profound and said, "We are Taoists from the state of Aparagodania. We're going to the Middle Earth to search for celestials and Taoism, to trace their origins. I'm passing by our country, and because it's been a long journey, I'm here to rest my feet." The person behind the door scrutinized him for a long time before saying, "Why didn't you go to the Dong Sheng divine continent? Instead, you went to the Middle Earth to trace the source. There are no Taoists in the Middle Earth. There are no Taoists in the Central Plains." Qing Chenzi was stunned. He did not expect that he would be exposed in a place like this. However, he had traveled far and wide and had tricked many such fools. He did not try to defend himself. He just smiled and said in a high voice, "What is there to visit in the Dong Sheng divine continent? Daozu Taishang Laojun has long since reincarnated in the Central Plains. Now that he has left the Hangu Valley in the west, everyone knows about him. We're going to see him." "I see." The door was pulled open, and an old woman cautiously poked her head out. She said to them, "It's not peaceful here recently. There are demons causing trouble." Therefore, the old woman did not dare to open the door to entertain the guests. "Since you're a Taoist from the Aparagodania state, please come in." Qing Chunzi didn't decline. He led the group of people and squeezed into the small cottage. He pretended to ask casually, "The owner said that there are demons and evils here. I'm not exaggerating. Normal demons and evils would avoid us Xuanjin cultivators who have attained Tao. Why don't you tell us what happened? We will help you get rid of the demon as a reward for your hospitality." The old woman heard his words and quickly waved her hand in fear. "No, you can't do that. Taoist, this demon is not normal. This place has the protection of the Queen Mother of the West. The mountains have gods, the rivers have dragons, the villages have land, and the cities have city gods. Even the mountain gods are in trouble, and the land is in trouble. Even these gods can't get rid of the demon. Even though you are Taoists, you are still mortals. How can you do it? You will only be throwing your life away." Oh, Qing Chunzi was proficient in tricking fools. He did not refute and only said slowly, "It's fine if you say it. If we can't do it, when we go to the east to pay a visit to Taishang Laojun, maybe it will work." When the old woman heard Taishang Laojun's name, she hesitated. She knew about Taishang Laojun. He was an old immortal who was on par with the Queen Mother of the West. If he helped, he could help them get rid of this disaster. She then told him everything she knew. It turned out that this place was originally under the protection of the Queen Mother of the West. There were no men in the country. With the protection of the Queen Mother of the West, the weather was good and there were no disasters. However, a few days ago, they lost contact with the surrounding tribes. The queen sent people to check, but when the envoys returned, they all died mysteriously. Then, a strange phenomenon started to appear in the country. Many people disappeared mysteriously. Occasionally, their bodies were found, but they died in a horrible way. Until a few days ago, a warrior of the womanland, a shrew named Lu Hadong, was found dead in her house. The queen dreamt of Lu Hadong's lonely soul and said that she was killed by a malicious ghost in her dream. After she died, she immediately turned into a vengeful spirit. Only then did she see the ghost that killed her. It was a man from the Guifang tribe. Lu Hadong immediately shouted, "How dare a man bully a female tiger?" She tore that malicious ghost apart. She ate him alive. After that, she patrolled the womanland and realized that there were many malicious ghosts causing trouble in the country. The city god and the earth god's domain was strange, causing her to be afraid and not dare to get close. Lu Hadong then patrolled the Queen Mother of the West at night. When she saw malicious ghosts, she ate them alive. Those malicious ghosts were not as ruthless as her and were actually scared away. Only then did she protect the peace of the womanland. When the Queen of Womanland heard Lu Hadong's report, she knew the inside story and asked in fear, now that the city god and the earth god are not responding and the Queen Mother of the West is not investigating. There are malicious ghosts causing trouble. What should we do? Lu Hadong immediately laughed and said, "Ghosts have no guts. Humans can't control ghosts, but ghosts can control ghosts. Now that the immortals and gods are not here, if ghosts cause trouble, only death awaits. However, there are those who are as timid as a chicken, and those who are heroic. Timidity leads to weakness of chi. Weakness of chi leads to instability of soul, and instability of soul leads to death as a little ghost. If you bravely face death, you'll be a hero in life and a hero in death. As a great ghost, you'll be able to take revenge with your own hands and eat the evil ghost alive. In this way, the ghost will be afraid of humans and won't dare to harm you. Secondly, there are virtuous and unvirtuous people, and there are evil spirits among ghosts. A warrior should die to protect his neighbors. The queen can issue an edict to send people to search for generous men in the country and invite them to patrol the four directions to fight against the evil spirits. Such heroes will not dare to offend the evil spirits when they are still alive. After death, they will become heroic ghosts and can defend our country with me." When the queen heard Lu Hadong's advice, she felt that it was very reasonable, so she announced it to the whole country. She even conferred Lu Hadong the title of Ghost King Protector of the State. Because the people of the Western Mother Kingdom disliked this title, they deeply felt Lu Hadong's kindness and respected her for her shrewish personality. They called her Celestial Master Lu, also known as Celestial Master Lu, the country protector Shrew Lu. From then on, everyone in the Western Mother Kingdom knew that one should not be timid when fighting against ghosts. Thus, the evil ghosts gradually came under control. The evil spirit was afraid that if it killed the person, the ghost of the person would take revenge. It also wanted to harm people very much, so it used all kinds of tricks to scare people until they lost their minds. Only then would it be willing to kill the person. Over the past few days, the old woman had seen many strange things caused by evil spirits, such as carrying coffins around at night and suddenly turning the water in the vat red. Because people were powerless in front of evil spirits, they could only rely on their courage, and sometimes people were killed by evil spirits. Chapter 953. There are only women in the Western Mother Kingdom. This reminds me of a certain kingdom in the westward journey. The goateed Taoist priest said in a serious tone. The old Taoist Qin Shun rushed over from the old lady's place. He did not look too good either. He said in a low voice, "I've asked around just now. The people of the Western Mother Kingdom really drank the water from the river here to get pregnant. There's also a Mount Jiang nearby, and there's also a hole in the mountain. The Zimu River is the river that we passed by earlier. It flows towards the east and goes around the city of Shiliang. This is the Western Liang Women Kingdom from 900 years ago," someone said with a trembling voice. "I feel that something is not right." Chenong frowned and said, "We departed from the Tempest Temple, but arrived at the strange and unpredictable Western Mother Kingdom. It seems like there is a hand guiding us from the back. Also, this Western Mother Kingdom gives me a very mysterious feeling." Chenong pretended to be confused and said, "Along the way, we naturally knew how scary the culprit who turned the netherworld upside down and the human world into a land of ghosts was. Just now, someone shouted the word Brahma before he died. Brahman is a concept that only exists in Buddhism. Could it be that all of this is related to Buddhism? The Monkey King killed Buddha? Previously, we were only shocked. When we regained our senses, we felt that something was not right. What's wrong?" Huishan quickly asked. Chun Ong calmly analyzed the situation to them. "We only paid attention to the fact that the Monkey King killed Gautama Buddha. This incident was too shocking. Instead, it covered up some things. For example, the most important motive. Why did the Monkey King kill Gautama Buddha? What else is there to say?" Huishan said angrily. "That evildoer is lawless and tyrannical. Gautama Buddha protects the three realms in the heavenly court. If the Monkey King had the ambition to rule the world, Gautama Buddha would be the one that he had to kill." "What you said makes sense." Chenong didn't deny it. He nodded and said, "The Monkey King has a past record. In our timeline, he wreaked havoc in the heavenly court and even said that the position of the emperor would be rotated and that it would be my family's turn next year. If he really has the intention to rule over the three realms, then getting rid of the Gautama Buddha would naturally be a matter of course. However, there is a paradox here. Does Monkey King really have the ability to kill Tathagata? Think about it. Although the Monkey King of ancient times was much more powerful than the legends of later generations, and even when he wreaked havoc in the heavenly court, it was this lord who forced the Jade Emperor to confer him the title of Heaven's Equal, not the Monkey King. This was a true emperor title. Even if he was born with a spiritual fetus, and he became the disciple of the number one person in Taoism, Taishang Laojun, and the most mysterious heavenly lord in Taoism, he has only been born for a few decades. Compared to Buddha's cultivation time, it's just an insignificant moment, just a snap of a finger. Can he really kill Buddha Tathagata? Hearing Chun Ang's words, the transmigrators came back to their senses. That day, the Monkey King was arrogant and domineering. His attacks shocked everyone, and his almost invincible attitude was deeply imprinted in the transmigrators' hearts, so much so that they did not even consider whether the Monkey King could kill Tathagata. Now that that invincible spirit was slowly fading away, they came back to their senses and subconsciously followed Chun Ang's question to consider. No matter how strong the Monkey King is, he shouldn't be stronger than Tathagata. That makes sense. We were too shocked that day and subconsciously neglected this point. Huishan chanted the name of Buddha and said with certainty, that was definitely not the Buddha's true body. Perhaps Buddha borrowed the Monkey King's hand to escape and reincarnate to face the calamity, or perhaps Buddha purposely let the Monkey King think that he killed him. Or maybe the one we saw that day was not Buddha Tathagata at all. Chenong said calmly. Huishan raised his head and wanted to refute, but after a moment of shock, he lowered his head and admitted that the possibility that Chenong mentioned was indeed true. Chenong continued, "You should know that impersonating Buddha isn't unprecedented. During the westward journey, that yellow-browed ancestor was just a child of the Maitreya Bodhisattva. Didn't he also dare to establish the little thunder temple and pretend to be Tathagata? Speaking of which, what was the Monkey King's motive for killing the Buddha we saw? Moreover, don't you think that after the Monkey King killed Tathagata, the omens that appeared were too strange? Is the omen too strange?" Chin Ong continued to analyze. Mount Tai tilts east, North Star shifts palace, and there are two suns in the sky. Chenong enunciated each word clearly. He raised his head and looked at the two suns in the sky, one bright and the other dark. He let the sunlight shine on his face, reflecting it so that the group of transmigrators could not see his current expression clearly. Tathagata died silently, but after his death, so many shocking omens appeared. Mount Tai is the celestial territory of the Lord of East Mountain, and North Star is the celestial Emperor Zi Wei's natal star. There are two suns in the sky, not to mention the attitude of the solar emperor, who in the three realms doesn't know that there are two suns in the sky. Isn't this a slap to the Jade Emperor's face? Now, the Lord of East Mountain, celestial Emperor Zi Wei, and the solar monarch all behaved very strangely after the incident. Even the Jade Emperor's behavior was very strange. Compared to those big shots, what we know is only a very partial perspective. So, how can we be sure that what we saw was real? Chen Ang's rhetorical question silenced the transmigrators. In the end, it was the old Taoist Qing Chun who interrupted the suspicious and fearful atmosphere. No matter what, the old woman here repeatedly advised me not to go to Mount Jiang. She said that there were too many connate fetuses there, and that the souls of the fetuses were not complete. They were born into trouble, and the air of resentment was the heaviest and the scariest. It was not a good place, but I thought that we could take a look. Hearing this, the transmigrators relaxed. Someone said, "It's just some ordinary fetuses. The souls of the babies are weak. Unless they're used by some evil sect to refine evil treasures like the 99-soul dispersing true energy gourd, there's nothing to worry about. Mount Jiang will be a famous spiritual mountain in the future. Maybe we can find some treasures there. Someone laughed. Even if we can't find any treasures, we can bring some water from the Daughter River and the reincarnation spring water. It will be the best medicine in the world. If we are careful, even golden immortal Dara will fall for it. Better than how many treasures and flying swords? The old Taoist Qing Chun decided. Then let's go to Mount Jiang. Mount Jiang is directly south of here. It's about 3,000 miles from here. We Taoist cultivators travel very fast. It will only take a few hours to get there. The group left the thatched cottage and walked for a few miles to avoid the eyes and ears of others. Only then did they turn on their conveyance lights and head south. After flying for 2 hours, they saw 2 mountains in front of them. One of them was as beautiful as Mount Shihua, while the other was a bare mountain. It was covered with strange rocks that were arranged in rows. Chapter 954. Why are there 2 mountains here? The butcher was shocked. That beautiful mountain should be Mount Jiang. Qing Chun said in a deep voice, the barren mountain next to it gives me a bad feeling. It seems to be a dead place in feng shui. Dead place? The middle-aged demon Taoist looked up and was shocked by the qi of death on the mountain. He took a few steps back and shouted in fear. The murderous aura is endless and the qi of death is like a canopy. Not to mention the plants and living things on a mountain, even the rocks and springs are dead. Even a gust of wind will suffocate the entire mountain. This is not a dead place. It is a forbidden place, a ghost place. I have been studying feng shui for 80 years, and I have never seen a place more ominous than this place. The middle-aged demon Taoist said regretfully, it's a pity that I didn't bring my bronze-armored corpse from the Warring States period. If I buried it on the mountain, it would most likely transform into a flying yiksha. When the old Taoist priest Qingchen heard that, he smiled coldly and said, flying yiksha? The left side of this place is a green dragon with its head chopped off. The right side is a white tiger with its head in its mouth. The front side is a vermilion bird with its blood, and the back side is a black tortoise with its body in its mouth. A mere flying yiksha wants to steal its murderous aura. Even if a drought demon came, he would be buried here. Even zombies can't be bred in such a place. Even the evil sects can't cultivate anything in this place. Evil creatures can't be bred here. Of course, if a creature is bred here, it will be a great calamity. Chenong took out a compass out of nowhere. He fiddled with it and said in a low voice, we don't have to go to Mount Jiang. The feng shui here has been destroyed by this ominous mountain. The reincarnation spring must have been formed by the spiritual beauty of Mount Jiang. Now that the spiritual mountain is destroyed and the spiritual beauty has turned into a murderous aura, the spring water might have turned into something else. Based on my experience, such an ominous aura must be accompanied by a ferocious creature. According to the Mountain and Sea scripture, there are many ferocious beasts, such as the victory encounter, the dead bug, the yong, and all the other ferocious beasts in the world. Many of them were born after the spirit mountains were destroyed. Who knows what kind of ferocious beast the reincarnation spring water gave birth to? Such a natural ferocious beast, formed from the spiritual beauty of a mountain, born from the resentment of the spiritual mountain. The moment it was born, it already had the mana of a celestial. This Mount Jiang imitates the Daughter River. It is at the foot of Kunlun Mountain, where the qi of the earth is concentrated, inheriting the ancestral veins of Kunlun. It's a rare breed in the world. Once it breeds a ferocious beast, I'm afraid it will be extraordinary. Why is there suddenly an ominous mountain here? Someone said doubtfully, this mountain is so conspicuous. How could the womanfolk not know about it? We should have heard of it long ago when we came here. Unless the womanfolk themselves don't know. The old Taoist added, ever since those weird things happened, the fallen embryo spring is filled with baleful energy due to the heavy killing. The womanfolk don't dare to come here anymore. This mountain was covered in clouds and mist. If one did not look closely, one would not be able to discover it. If this mountain suddenly appeared after those things happened, the people of the womanfolk wouldn't know about it. There seems to be someone in front. Someone with sharp eyes noticed that there was a vague figure looking at the ominous mountain on Mount Jiang, not far away. At this moment, A gust of wind blew over and parted the clouds between the two mountains, exposing the figure clearly in front of everyone's eyes. It's the Bull Demon King. The old Taoist took in a breath of cold air. No matter how much he planned and tried to escape, he did not expect to bump into the strongest person in the ancient times, the person who was known as the Great Sage among the demons. Moreover, it was the Bull Demon King who was already the second strongest among the demons. At this moment, the old Taoist couldn't help but suspect if the time travel of them was also a huge conspiracy that spanned across countless years. The Bull Demon King did not have time to care about the ants in his eyes. He stared at the ominous mountain beside Mount Jiang. If one were to look far away, one could clearly see the huge mountain range that stretched for thousands of miles. It was like a rock that fell into the dust. The rock raised its head and cried loudly. The stagnant mountain range seemed to be its unresigned struggle before its death. It was angry, it was sad, it wanted to flap its wings and fly to the 9 heavens again. The Bull Demon King was stunned. Third brother. This was the corpse of the Rock Demon King. Guhua! Guhua! On Mount Jiang behind them, there was a cry that sounded like a baby crying. Monk Huishan, the old Taoist Qingchun, the middle-aged demon Taoist, and the butcher-like strong man changed their expressions. The old keeper had already escaped towards the western Mother Kingdom. In the blink of an eye, a strange bird with a body as round as a basket, 10 rings, 9 necks, and 8 heads flew out from the direction of the broken hole in Mount Jiang. It stretched its neck and cried loudly. Fresh blood dripped down from its severed neck and landed on the ground. Within 10 miles, all the plants and trees were turned into ashes. Each of its heads had 2 wings, and the 18 wings flew out rapidly. The strange bird's cry was unusually piercing. In the ears of the crowd of travelers, it actually made them drowsy, dizzy, and weak. With just its cry, it could make 99% of the travelers unable to fight back. It's actually the Guhua bird. Qingchen Zi said in fear. How many children were killed by the fallen embryo spring in the broken hole? Their resentment was usually suppressed by Mount Spirited. Now that Mount Spirited has turned ferocious, not only can it not suppress the resentment, but it is also using the resentment to metamorphose. The ferocious nature of the mountain has turned into a ferocious aura. It is a natural ferocious beast that will bring disaster to the land. This bird is the punishment given by this land of Mount Spirited to those who went to the River of Daughters to seek for children but were unwilling to give birth. They aborted their children. In the future, when the people of Daughters give birth, within 100 days, the Guhua bird will take its child. This is a ferocious beast like Xiang Lu, Wu Zhiqi, and the 9-headed, snake-headed beast. Only the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors of ancient times, and even Yao Shun Yutang, were able to get rid of it. In comparison, Chunang's words were more succinct. We're no match for it, Run. As he spoke, the keeper, who was the fastest to escape, suddenly hugged his stomach and cried out in pain. He fell to the ground, and in front of everyone's horrified eyes, his stomach visibly expanded. The keeper clutched his stomach and laughed bitterly. I've been running for my whole life, but now that I'm old, I still can't escape. No matter how fast I run, I can't outrun fate. Qingchen Zi had already made his way to his side. He lifted the keeper up and fished out a medicinal pill from his robes. He was about to feed it to the keeper. Unexpectedly, the keeper pushed his hand away and sighed. It's useless. Don't worry about me, Go. There's a ghost fetus in my stomach. For thousands of years, there have been countless babies from the Western Mother Kingdom in Mount Jiang. Before these babies were born, they were killed by their own mothers. Their resentment was so deep that it moved the heavens and the earth. That's why the Guhua bird was born. The Guhua bird, which was formed from the spiritual energy of Mount Jiang, is different from the other ghost birds. It is the accumulation of billions of ghost fetus resentment. That's why it can give birth. When people feel its aura, the ghost fetus will be sent into its stomach. There is no way to resist it. When the ghost fetus enters its stomach, it wants to vent its resentment. In a while, it will come out from under my ribs. It will take my blood and soul and become another guhua bird. The guhua bird of Mount Jiang can also be called the guhua, ghost mother. Originally, after they satisfied the source of their resentment, they should be able to complete their wish and reincarnate. However, this place has changed, and it has become like the Wu Jiao ghost tribe, preventing them from reincarnating. Now that I am carrying it, I can feel the ignorance and resentment in its heart. As the keeper spoke, he sat down and sighed. I would like to use my loving heart to influence it, to help it understand the selflessness and purity of a parent's love. I would like to make up for its regret and sorrow, to dissolve its grievances and resentment. Brother Qing Chunzi, when a man is about to die, his words are kind. Can you promise me one thing? Qing Chunzi heard this and was shocked by the keeper's pure kindness. He supported him and said, "Please speak, Brother Qing Chunzi. Please use your kindness and love to influence these ghost fetus. Do not kill them without asking the reason." The keeper gasped for breath, unable to speak. His stomach was as big as a bucket, so thin that it was almost transparent. One could see the ghost fetus opening its eyes in confusion, looking at its mother. The keeper stroked his belly, his face filled with benevolence. Using the last of his strength, he said, "Brother Taoist, please find a way to reincarnate these ghost fetus. Reincarnation is the greatest mercy. Now that my life is hanging by a thread, I understand Her Majesty Hudu's boundless love. I can feel that wherever my soul goes, the netherworld has disappeared. The souls of all living beings have no place to go. How sad and pitiful. Brother Taoist, please go to Hutu's temple and pray for her mercy. I ask her to reincarnate, so that the souls of all living beings may have a home to return to." With the last of his strength, the keeper screamed in agony. Qing Chun touched the keeper's waist. His clothes were soaked with blood. Qing Chun pulled the keeper's shirt back and saw a gaping wound on the left side of the keeper's ribs. The ghost baby was peeking its head out, cautiously and cautiously. Although the ghost infant had almost killed the keeper, a baby's soul was still weak. It was only because of Gugu's ghost mother that it had this ability. Now, it was just a weak little ghost. The old Taoist Qing Chun could kill it with a single palm strike. As he watched the keeper's flesh and soul wither and wither away, Qing Chun's anger grew. He summoned the 5 thunders in his palms and prepared to unleash a bolt of palm lightning to destroy the evil child. But the keeper's grip on his right hand tightened. When he saw that the ghost infant's eyes were pure and without any impurities, he let go. Qing Chun cried, fellow Taoist, I've lost another fellow Taoist today." The keeper was sucked dry by the ghost fetus in front of him, leaving behind only a piece of human skin. The ghost fetus squeaked twice, but when it saw Qing Chun sitting there, it didn't react. It put on the human skin and transformed into a strange bird with colorful feathers and 2 heads. It cried, "Xiahua, Xiahua," and flew off into the distance. Qing Chun looked up. He understood that his fellow Taoist's wish had finally come true. Chapter 955. Anhua, Anhua. The 8-headed bird in the sky was still letting out a long cry, but the nearby transmigrators' faces had changed. Some of them had seen the keeper's blood being sucked dry, and the ghostly infant he'd given birth to was draped in his skin as it flew away. There were a few who had been too panicked to notice, but they knew that this was not a beast to be trifled with. The transmigrators wished they had 2 more legs and desperately wanted to escape from here. But following the strange cries, another 2 or 3 transmigrators clutched their stomachs in midair, screaming as they fell. The rest of them looked even worse. They still did not know how those people fell for it, and they did not even know why it was them. It was as if Anhua had randomly picked a few people from among them. This unknown terror was especially terrifying. Every chirp of the Anhua in the sky was like a note of death for the transmigrators. The bull demon king looked at the 8-headed bird in the sky quietly. The broken neck was dripping with fresh blood. The bull demon king summoned a drop of blood and caught it with his fingers. The part of the skin that came into contact with the Anhua's blood was instantly charred. Such a strong drought spirit. The Bull Demon King said solemnly, "I heard that something big happened in the Netherworld, and many of the 10 Yinluo halls died. I thought it was just a rumor, but now that third brother died here, he destroyed the spiritual energy of Mount Jiang and gave birth to such a ferocious beast. Could it be that the era of the ancient 3 emperors, the era of the demons and demons, is going to appear again?" Although he was talking about the era of demons and demons, there was no joy on the Bull Demon King's face. Instead, he was solemn. This was because he knew that in the primitive era described in the classic of Mountains and Seas, the demons and demons that dominated the world would not treat him as one of their own. In fact, when the world was first created, the heavenly spirits and earthly evils had yet to disperse, and the situation of the mountains and rivers had yet to be settled. In addition to the influence of the heavenly tribulation, the mystical mountains and rivers often gave birth to strange beasts. The mystical mountains and rivers gave birth to mystical beasts, while the barren hills and unruly rivers gave birth to ferocious beasts. When the world was first created, the 3 realms of Qian and Kuan were barren, and most of them were ferocious beasts. These strange beasts were born from strange and impure qi, and most of them were ignorant and had no spiritual intelligence. Yet, every one of them had amazing supernatural powers. Later generations regarded them as demons, but even those ferocious mutated beasts would kill each other, let alone the living beings that were nurtured after birth. The Bull Demon King was very clear that those demons would not talk about kindred spirits with him. In their eyes, he was just food. Fortunately, after the creation of the world, a large number of those ferocious beasts killed each other. Then, the immortals from the celestial mountain of the celestial court came out to subdue the demons. A small number of spiritual beasts were either taken as mounts or cultivated on their own and became itinerant immortals. The remaining few, especially powerful ferocious beasts, could be fierce until the enlightenment period of the human race. Then, they were hunted down by the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors. Many ancient gods of the heavenly courts had once been born from the human race. They killed ferocious beasts in various tribes and displayed their martial arts, making some achievements. The unbounded bird in the sky noticed the Bull Demon King below. It chirped proudly. The Bull Demon King could vaguely feel that it was absorbing a shred of his aura. He seemed to have thought of something, and his face paled. He hurriedly held his breath and concealed it, cutting off the strange power that was absorbing his aura. The unbounded bird was a little surprised. It was the first time that someone could break through its technique. The strange 8-headed bird hurriedly flapped its 18 wings. Its wings were on its neck, close to its back. The arrangement of its body was very unscientific. Hence, once it became flustered, the 18 wings would fight with each other and even break. But that was when the 8 heads of the unbounded bird each had its own position. Now that the 8 heads of the unbounded bird were united, it became very agile. It flew over the head of the Bull Demon King. The blood that dripped from his severed head became even redder. Some of the travelers were unlucky enough to be stained by the blood. In an instant, they died miserably and turned into a scorched flame ghost. Ching Chun hurriedly said, "Be careful. The drought poison in the demon blood is very strong. Those who are poisoned are incurable. Save me." A traveler at the side held his stomach and stretched out his hand to shout at Ching Chunzi. But Ching Chunzi could do nothing. He could only watch as the ghost infant in his stomach devoured his flesh and blood. The ghost infant put on human skin and turned into a strange bird. "Unbounded bird! Unbounded bird!" He shouted and flew away. Ching Chunzi wanted to use the thunder technique to kill the unbounded bird that the ghost infant had turned into. But his expression was conflicted. In the end, he had no choice but to let it go. He let out a long sigh. It was as if he had aged 10 years. Chun Ong stood not far away, on top of the mountain formed from the Rock Demon King's corpse. He looked at them quietly. On his shoulders stood a strange 2-headed bird. It was the ghost infant that had turned into the Summerhua bird with the keeper's human skin draped over it. Chun Ong gently stroked its feathers. When he saw the Summerhua bird looking at him obediently, he smiled and said, This is also your good fortune. Go. Don't let down the trace of kindness he left for you." As he said this, he sent the summerwheel bird on his shoulder forward. He watched it spread its wings and fly towards the group of ghost infants that had turned into unbounded birds. The summerwheel bird flew back to Mount Jeong and called out to Qing Chunzi. Qing Chunzi looked as if he had just woken up from a dream. The unbounded bird was a ghost bird, a ferocious beast. But because of the keeper's kindness, the summerwheel bird that was born was a spiritual beast. It nimbly flew toward the uhuo birds and used its claws to lightly scratch the back of the uhuo birds. It quickly tore open the human skin and dug out the ghost babies inside. It held them in its mouth. The ghost babies were like naughty children who had met their elder brothers. They could only cry like real babies and cannot fight back. The summerwheel bird grabbed a few ghost infants and flew towards the Western Mother Kingdom. With a few flaps of its wings, it flew into the city of Shiliang. The old woman who had escorted the transmigrators up the mountain looked in the direction of Mount Jiang in fear. She too had heard the unbounded bird's voice. No matter who it was in the Western Mother Kingdom, as long as a woman had gone to the spring of childbirth to undergo childbirth, they would feel a sense of impending doom upon hearing the unbounded bird's voice. The old woman carefully peeked out from the crack of the door. She heard a clear and melodious cry. She looked towards the direction of the sound and saw a beautiful two-headed bird perched on the roof of her house. When the strange bird looked at her, she felt something was wrong. That familiar feeling, she remembered it very clearly. She cried out, "Io, I'm over 60 years old. Why do I feel like I'm pregnant?" She touched her lower abdomen. Although it was nothing out of the ordinary, she could clearly feel that there was a little life inside. The old woman heard the voice of an old man coming from one of the white heads of the strange two-headed bird. "This is a debt you owe, and now it's time to pay it back. The unbounded bird will not disturb the child you are pregnant with. It will even help you to protect this place. If you treat this child well, they will chase away the ghosts that come near you. If you mistreat him or kill him, the unbounded bird will find you." Before the old woman could react, the strange two-headed bird soared into the sky again and went somewhere else to deliver its child. The bull demon king was in a sorry state on Mount Jiang. He wanted to subdue the vicious bird, but when he got close to the unbounded ghost mother, he was brushed by the divine light that shot out from its eyes. He immediately felt his back door tighten, and something was rolling in his abdomen. He quickly shouted, "I'm going the wrong way. I'm going the wrong way. That place is not the door of childbirth. Don't go there." Then he touched his lower body. Oh my God! Even his hemorrhoids were broken. What a strong bull demon king. He immediately tightened his abdomen and lifted his anus, forcing the thing back into his body. He then exerted his strength and squeezed there. There was a cry of a baby coming from his abdomen, and the baby died inside, turning into a pile of cow dung. The bull demon king flew into a rage out of humiliation. The unbounded ghost mother also went crazy when she heard the crying of the ghost babies. The unbounded ghost mother used her sharp claws to scratch the bull demon king's face. The surrounding unbounded birds that were transformed from ghost babies rushed up to help. The bull demon king waved his iron rod so hard that no water could get through. He hit wherever he pointed. If the unbounded birds did not risk their lives to save her, the unbounded ghost mother would have been killed by the bull demon king. The bull demon king tore 2 or 3 unbounded birds apart and roared, killing the rest of them. Seeing that all her children had died, the unbounded ghost mother's eyes turned red. She let out a high-pitched cry. The sound was like a cuckoo crying blood. It flew towards a mountain where the rock demon king died. The blood that dripped from the decapitated head dyed the mountain red and seeped into it. Qing Chenzi was still looking at the direction where the summerwheel bird flew. His face was filled with a sense of loss, sorrow, and joy. When he heard the cry, he was immediately awakened. He turned around and asked the middle-aged demon, "Priest Yang, do you still remember that in the Western Mother Kingdom, be it the mountain gods or the land, birds or beasts, men or women, once they die, They will turn into ferocious ghosts due to the fact that their souls have no one to rely on and the peculiar law that shrouds this place like an endless hell. The demon Taoist nodded his head in confusion. Indeed. Qing Chenzi seemed to be asking and muttering to himself. In that case, the rock demon king also died here. The demon Taoist was stunned for a moment. Looking at the direction where the unbounded ghost mother flew towards, he suddenly shivered and screamed, "Everyone run! There's an even scarier guy." Just as he was screaming in fear, a long cry that pierced through the clouds and cracked the rocks came from the rock demon king's corpse. It tore through the vast sky. The rock mountain range that spanned 8,000 miles suddenly split open. A phoenix that covered the sky flew out from it. The phoenix had 9 heads. When it flapped its wings, it created a huge monsoon that shrouded the Nanjing section state. It was ferocious. It could devour the people of an entire continent in one gulp. Wherever it went, the aura of calamity surged and immortals fell into the clouds. It was inauspicious and was called the Ghost Chariot. It was auspicious. It had 5 colors and was called the Phoenix. It sang and danced on its own, bringing peace to the world. It was called the 9 Phoenix and incited Chu foam. Qing Chunzi was flabbergasted and said with a trembling voice, "In the great wilderness, there's a mountain called the North Pole Tianhuan. It has 9 heads and a human with a bird's body. It is called the 9 Phoenix." The clouds cover the sky and the stars vanish. Raising one's hand towards the sky is like smearing paint. In the darkness of the sky, there's an object whose form can't be seen, but whose voice can be heard. At first, it's sad and desolate, sometimes high and sometimes low. At first, it's like a jade maiden playing a jade flute. The pipes are uneven. Then it squeaks and squeaks like rolling and twitching. It's also like a 100 Jiangzhou chariot turning its axle with a sickening sound. On the Brocade River at night, a flock of geese startled the reed flower continent. Its name is the Ghost Chariot. It carries 100 ghosts in the sky at night. This is a god. If it's ferocious, it's the Ghost Chariot. If it's auspicious, it's the 9 Phoenix divine bird. Then is it ferocious or auspicious? The middle-aged demon Taoist hurriedly asked. Chapter 956. The Ghost Chariot, ferocious bird in the sky, let out a cry that shocked the 3 realms. After announcing its birth, it circled in the sky. Its 2 wings were like clouds that covered half of the Kunlun Mountains. The women of the Western Mother Empire looked at the huge wings that covered half of the sky in horror. The remaining mountain deities trembled in fear, feeling indescribable terror. The Bull Demon King was also shocked by the scene of the Ghost Chariot's birth. He held the iron rod and looked at the 9-headed phoenix in the sky. The eyes of the bull and the bird met. The Bull Demon King asked hesitantly, "Third brother, did you come back to life?" The eyes of the 9-headed phoenix were emotionless. Its eyes were indifferent to all living beings. There was no recognition of its own kind. The murderous intent in its eyes was obvious. The Bull Demon King sighed deeply and took out the iron rod. He took a step forward and stepped into the void. The 2 horns pierced through the sky like the mountains of Kunlun that had been polished by the wind for hundreds of millions of years. The white horns were like the snowy peaks in the sky, piercing into the firmament. A huge white bull raised its head and kicked its hooves, charging towards the Ghost Chariot. Mount Jiang was like an inconspicuous little mound. The mountains only reached the white bull's waist. The white bull's hooves, which were as big as a mountain, broke through the mountains. When it stepped down, the small hills nearby collapsed. The earth shook and yellow clouds rolled out. Countless valleys were torn in the mountains. Between the 2 behemoths, the group of transmigrators were like inconspicuous dust. They could only sit and watch the 2 behemoths fight, which was like the collapse of the mountains and the crack of the earth. The huge claws of the Ghost Chariot were like 4 huge mountains that shot out from the sky. They grabbed onto the horns of the white bull. It was like 2 indestructible mountains had collided. Just a slight aftershock was enough to blast a transmigrator who was trying his best to dodge into a cloud of blood mist. To the living beings within 1,000 miles, it was like the end of the world. Qing Chenzi saw it clearly from his side. The battle between the bull demon king and the nine-headed phoenix was too shocking. It was almost like the end of the world. If Qing Qinzi was to use an image he was familiar with, it was like the Kunlun Mountains and the Himalayas fighting. The era when the ancient gods and devils were still in the world was really beyond his imagination. He could not believe that such a scene of destruction was caused by two creatures. At this moment, Qing Chunzi finally understood. What is a god fiend? This is a god and demon. The terror of the bull demon king was far beyond anyone's imagination. Qing Chunzi had once flown over Mount Everest on a flying sword in his previous life. The main peak of Mount Everest was already a lofty existence that was far beyond his imagination. When a white bull that was as large as the main peak of Mount Everest and had a power that far exceeded Mount Everest, a white bull that was as lofty as a mountain range appeared in front of him just like that kind of feeling was really hard to describe in words. Needless to say, there was also a colossus that was not inferior to it. Every move was colliding and killing. In his life, those that were stronger than these two ferocious beasts were only the Monkey King. The battle between the Monkey King and the golden body of Buddha could be compared. Although in terms of power level, mana, and divine arts, the battle between the Monkey King and the Buddha was far superior, but in terms of power level and scene, it might not be as intense as this one. After all, that battle involved the mystery of time and space. It was far beyond the scope of their understanding. When Qing Chunzi saw the aftermath of the two powers starting to affect the place he was at, his face instantly turned pale. The middle-aged demon Taoist revealed his true form. It was a goat with 4 horns. He used his horns to touch the soil and rocks under his feet. A yellow light rose from his horns and separated the soil and rocks, allowing him to escape underground. Qing Chunzi did not care about his demeanor. He did not even care about the sage-like beard that he always cherished on his face. He hurriedly shouted, "Taoist Yang, bring me along." However, the middle-aged demon Taoist did not care about him. The yellow light from his horns flashed, and he escaped far into the depths of 1,000 miles underground. Qing Chunzi scolded loudly, "Son of a b****, TCH. Damn you. You can leave, but I won't be able to do anything to you. I thought you were a goat. I didn't expect you to be a son of a b****, TCH. You're actually a descendant of the Earth Dragon. Very fierce. Very fierce. Can't you even bring me along?" Before he could finish his words, he saw the 4 hooves of the white bull shaking. The blood from its battle with a 9-headed phoenix had already dyed the ground. The bull's temper had already risen, and its eyes were red. When the bull demon king's hooves stomped on the ground, there was an almost endless power. The 4 bull legs that were like pillars that supported the sky transmitted endless power into the ground, borrowing strength from it. In this way, the middle-aged demon Taoist who escaped underground was in big trouble. That middle-aged demon Taoist was only a goat with the bloodline of the Earth Dragon, not to mention a bastard with a weak bloodline like him. Even a genuine ferocious beast Earth Dragon will be severely injured when faced with the bull demon king's hooves. What more a dabbler like Taoist Yang? Qing Chunzi immediately saw a wisp of blood floating up from the depths of the ground. The middle-aged demon Taoist who escaped underground had probably even turned into dust and mixed into the soil. The surrounding mountains had all sunk by nearly 100 meters. The rock layers underground had all melted and changed from the pressure, forming a large area of marble and granite, especially the rocks under the 4 hooves of the bull demon king. If these transmigrators could remember the geographical situation nearby, they could go there to dig for treasures when they returned to the future. The rocks nearby had probably been compressed into treasures of heaven and earth, turning into the sun-green stone. Similar to the primordial stone, they were the best materials to refine earth elemental treasures. They were most suitable to refine elemental treasures like the primordial stone and the heaven-flipping seal. At that moment, not to mention the transmigrators, even the Guhua demon mother was fleeing outside. This place had already been turned upside down. If she stayed any longer, even an ancient ferocious beast like the Guhua bird would be in danger. Anyway, Guhua evil mother could fly, so she could escape much better than those transmigrators. She risked her life and escaped from the territory of the Queen Mother of the West before the Bull Demon King went crazy. Just as she heaved a sigh of relief, she heard someone whispering in front of her, "Kidney, what do you think of that big bird? It has 8 heads. This time, it won't be like the one before, hitting its head against the rocks and dying together with us, right? And can change its mount. If it changes its head every day, it can last for a week." Somehow, Guwa, evil mother, suddenly shivered. She looked around with her 8 heads and easily found the direction of the voice. He saw a furry and ugly creature standing together with a bloody thing in the shape of a cashew nut. They were judging it from the side. For some reason, the innate mystique of the unshow bird couldn't work on them. It was as if the two of them weren't even considered complete living beings. Moreover, the two things seemed to be able to subdue her. Guhua, evil mother, suddenly swallowed the two things when they were not paying attention. The two things were shocked. Seeing the ghost bird swallowing them, they were not shocked. Instead, they were happy. The thing in the shape of a kidney said happily, "Finally, there is a creature that does not despise us. Instead, it takes the initiative to invite us." Chapter 9:57. Tekira, do you know? The old king of Wakanda whispered to his son, "Humans originated in Africa, and the people living on this land are the oldest remnants of the human species. Only we know some of the oldest secrets about humans. Wakanda is the preserver of human history. About 10 million years ago, the leaders of the 5 tribes of Wakanda discovered the mystical meteorite that came from outer space. They built the first human tribal alliance at the place where the meteorite landed, but this is a lie. That meteorite was originally a conspiracy. It was not a blessing, but a curse. It was part of the body of the creator of our ancestors, the foremost terrifying knights under the command of the creator, War. That meteorite was meant to destroy our ancient civilization from the beginning. It fell from the sky and completely destroyed our ancestors, a civilization of the ancient apes with superpowers. The radiation of vibranium caused our genes to begin to degenerate. It caused our intelligence to begin to disappear and did not completely destroy the civilization of primitive humans. We have forgotten too much about what happened back then. Our ancestors, under the leadership of a leader called Caesar, had to make some sacrifices in order to preserve the fire of civilization. We reached an agreement with the Creator. He allowed us to live, and we, the remaining tribes of the ancient civilization, had to live under the supervision of his subordinates. That was war. The old king looked into the distance. In the towering sacred mountain, vibranium shone with a magical blue light. Caesar compromised with the Creator. The power and terror of the Creator was beyond anyone's imagination. Caesar knew that he had to compromise. From then on, Wakanda was not allowed to have any contact with the outside world. We could understand the world, but we could not allow the world to know us. Wakanda was the Garden of Eden, and it was also the cage that the Creator set for us. But there were also some ancient apes who worshipped the terrifying Creator and compromised with him. The Creator allowed them to eat the kingdom of wisdom. At that time, a tribe, under the leadership of their leaders, Adam and Eve, walked out of Africa. At the edge of the Red Sea, they saw the Son of the Creator and were subjected to the apocalypse. From then on, Adam and Eve's tribe forgot everything about the ancient civilization and reproduced into modern humans. Wakanda is what we call ourselves, but in the mouths of those traitors, this place is called the Garden of Eden. Vibranium was a part of the fruit of wisdom. To be precise, it was 1/5. The fruit of wisdom that humans ate consisted of 5 parts, including war, famine, plague, and death, as well as the most mysterious fate. Together, they shaped the post-human civilization, and the entire world was built according to their blueprints. They shaped the civilization, and the descendants of Adam and Eve were blessed by the Creator. They once had the 5 powers bestowed by the Creator. About the war of matter, the famine of life, the plague of soul, and the death of the ultimate answer to all questions, Under the mysterious apocalypse of fate, they established an ancient civilization that was 100 times more brilliant than Wakanda in the Two Rivers Basin, Babylon. But they were too proud and arrogant. They finally discovered the mark left by the Creator in their genes, so they wanted to rebel against the Creator and gain freedom from his hands. They built an existence known as the Tower of Babel, which finally angered the Son of God. The Son of God gave them a predetermined fate. A great flood came from the sky, and the Tower of Babel was destroyed. Tekera, you must remember, the majesty of the Creator is not to be offended. In an era even older than this planet, before we arrived on this planet, humans did not use this term to address us. At that time, we were still a group of apes. We were the second generation of humans created by the Creator. The previous generation of humans was ended by him himself. The remaining ancient humans came to this planet with us. In the center of the Pacific Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean, they created two floating continents, Atlantis and Mu Continent. They were called Atlantis and Lemuria. Later, the two continents sank to the bottom of the sea during an ancient war. For thousands of years, we have been watching our compatriots on this continent suffer and be bullied. This is not because we are indifferent, but because we are powerless. We are just a group of prisoners imprisoned by the Creator, relying on the remnants of the ancient civilization to survive with difficulty. Humans originated from this continent, but they looked down on their compatriots who were on this continent. Even those who knew the history and knew the inside story looked down on us. In the eyes of the Creator's lackeys in the Vatican, we are just a group of human materials that have not finished evolving. There was even a period of time when they refused to acknowledge us as humans. Because the people on this continent have never eaten the fruit of wisdom. They contemptuously said that this was just the material that the Creator used to create humans. They even believed that black people were born with low intelligence and that their evolution was incomplete because we did not experience the apocalypse when Adam and Eve walked out of Africa. Now, they're repeating the history of rebelling against the Creator. Tekera, don't get involved with them. They are fated to fail because humans are things created by war, plague, famine, death, and fate. The old king cupped the face of the indescribable T'Challa, who was shocked by his words, and said to him, "Forgive me, child. This is not an illusion caused by you eating the heart-shaped herb. In fact, that herb only stimulated the potential in our bodies, the power that was suppressed by the vibranium, and recovered the ability of our ancestors when they were created by the Creator. Some words can only be told when you take the herb, when the X gene in your body starts to activate, when your brain becomes temporarily active, and when your psychic abilities are stimulated. This is the secret that the Wakanda royal family has guarded for thousands of years about the origin and destiny of humans. My child, the Creator has returned to this world. As early as when the people outside started their so-called Second World War, my father, the previous Black Panther, discovered that the vibranium began to become active, displaying a series of new characteristics, and the suppression on us began to loosen. We told the people of Wakanda that this was the result of Wakanda's exchange with the outside world and the technological explosion. But in reality, we clearly knew that the vibranium itself was changing, and it was not so active before. But we dared not tell the people that the vibranium in the sacred mountain that they trusted and relied on, the foundation of Wakanda's founding, was alive. That would only lead to unnecessary fear. So when the Black Panther visited the Ndapaya tribe, the Ebola tribe, and other ancient tribes formed by the remnants of ancient civilizations, he discovered that the knights guarding them were also becoming abnormally active. The Stairway of the Sun, the plague progenitor's primitive virus, and the voodoo cult's symbol of death, the voodoo doll. These facts all show that our cruel and terrifying Creator is about to return. And now, he has returned. The old king said fearfully, "T'Challa, my child, I should not have left all this to you, but fate has arranged my script, and it is time for me to end it. You must lead our country, lead your people to live." Father. T'Challa could finally speak when he saw his father's shadow fading away. He choked and said, I'd rather die than let my people continue to live in prison. Child, don't speak nonsense. For a race, the worst outcome is still better than death. The old king patted T'Challa's cheek lightly, and his figure gradually faded away. T'Challa wanted to grab him in fear, but he only touched the red soil that covered his body. He raised his body and looked around anxiously. High Priest Zuin stepped forward and grabbed his hand, asking, "Your Majesty, what's wrong?" "I saw my father." T'Challa only came back to his senses after a while. He looked up and said, "Leave us for a moment. I have something to ask the High Priest." Zuin sat beside him gently and asked kindly, "What do you want to ask me, my king?" "Zuin, do you know the earlier history of our tribe?" T'Challa looked up and asked. Chapter 958. Father. Thor bowed to the blind Odin on the throne. The Midgardians refused to release Loki. They believe that Loki has committed crimes against humanity, against their planet's civilization, and will be imprisoned in the deep sea prison indefinitely. Sigh. Odin sighed. Then don't mention the diplomatic note again. That's the punishment he deserves. Thor, you've done enough for him. Now let's talk about the 3 Midgard people who walked out of the atrium. The Shanders have protested the Soviets' extermination of species on other planets several times. They're warning them not to use high-energy lasers to burn glass on planets. And the Kree people, they're demanding an explanation for Luo Nan's disappearance on Earth. Explanation. The old Odin raised his hammer angrily. Since when did the Kree people demand an explanation from Asgard? Do they need an explanation for disappearing on Earth? Isn't that how it should be? Arriving on Earth, in the Milky Way galaxy, or even the most dangerous place in the universe, to lose track of one's whereabouts is such a normal thing. Someone actually wants an explanation from us. He may have been taken away by the dangerous newborn humans on Earth to be an experimental specimen. He may have died from the murder of the endless supercriminals here. He may have died from the ancient civilization on Earth. He may have died from war, famine, plague, death. He may even have been killed by us as guardians. Is there any reason for disappearing on Earth? Thanos lost the Infinity Stone here. Did he let us off the hook? If Hela was here, I would have smashed his head and made him explain to me what an explanation is. Father, please calm down. Thor worriedly stepped forward to support the old Odin, holding his old hand. Odin let out a long sigh. Thor, I'm old. My hand can't seem to hold Gungnadin anymore. But we're in an unprecedented crisis. I can't stop worrying about you. Especially you, Thor. You're always so arrogant and proud. You think of yourself as a god. But you must know that the Creator did not create us as gods. We originated from the same group of monkeys as the giants, dwarves, elves, and humans of the 9 worlds. The entire Milky Way galaxy was born from the seeds of the Creator sown by Apocalypse, which gave birth to so many life forms and civilizations. For this, Apocalypse led the 4 great knights to destroy the Titan civilization and wipe out the mechanical bug race amalgamation. Thanos personally destroyed the civilization he was born in, and only then was he able to struggle at death's door. Even now, High Celestial Venerate is holed up on planet Sokka, and the collectors are running all over the world. Half of the Celestial team has died, so the Celestial team has no one to teach them. The civilization of the previous generation was destroyed, and the new seeds that grew on the ruins, such as the Kree Star and the Xander Star, had no idea what kind of dark era the universe had experienced. It was a time of war, pestilence, famine, and death ravaged the universe. Apocalypse conquered half of the universe for the Creator. These natives who were born and raised in the Milky Way have long been unable to see the flames of war between the 5 universe gods and the 4 horsemen of the Apocalypse tens of millions of galaxies away. Do you think the 4 horsemen of the Apocalypse you saw are powerful enough? That's just an insignificant part of them, and they're keeping quiet for some unknown reason. You missed the war when Asgard was born. You must know that we weren't born as gods. We only became gods after conquering the 4 horsemen of the Apocalypse and leaving. You missed the war when Asgard was born. You must know that we weren't born as gods. We only became gods after conquering the 4 horsemen of the Apocalypse and redeveloping the Milky Way civilization. At that time, your eldest sister, Hela, was always by my side. At that time, we saw many war ruins from the previous era and peeked at a corner of that terrible war. Many Titan corpses as large as planets were suspended in the void of space. The star gods who were born with the stars were killed and abandoned. The plague on their corpses revived the star souls, and new angels walked out of the corpses of the old gods. The celestial gods trembled in fear, afraid that the four horsemen's eyes would return to them. At that time, the Asgardians caught up with the best of times. The Milky Way was still trembling in the shadow of the four horsemen of the apocalypse. The old civilization had been destroyed, and the new civilization was still in its infancy. We seized the best opportunity and leaped to the position we have today. We became gods, but you must remember, Thor, we weren't born as gods, but we used terror, blood, and power to make the Milky Way recognize our position. Odin, who had spoken for a long time, was a little breathless and tired as he waited for Thor to answer. Thor, however, was interested in a name that appeared frequently. Father, I rarely hear you mention that I have a sister. Hela, Odin reflexively mentioned the name. When you were young, I thought that Asgard needed peace. That's why I didn't want to mention her to you. Thor, at that time, I could see that you didn't lack courage, but you lacked the responsibility of a king. So in order to prevent you from becoming more manic and out of control, I rarely mentioned her. But now it's time for me to tell you these things. Hela was once my right-hand woman. Like Loki, she was an adopted child, but I didn't care about these things. She was tenacious and persistent, ruthless and ruthless. She was a very successful war goddess. Her reputation in Asgard soared with victory after victory. Just after we conquered most of the Milky Way, something happened to her. Finally, I understood that it was time to stop this out-of-control chariot of Asgard. Otherwise, our race will only end up being destroyed. What happened? Thor asked, not understanding. Odin said, sadly, she found the remains of a battlefield, located on Saturn's moon, Titan. At that time, the 9 planets of the solar system were a mysterious place. It was hard for us to imagine why there were so many alien ruins gathered on these 9 planets, allowing our race from the 9 planets to develop rapidly. We Asgardians were born on Mars, and before we discovered the world tree system that included the 9 planets, we settled there. The 9 great nations originally referred to the 9 planets. Later, we discovered the war Skynet at the center of the sun, discovered the mother of famine hidden on the moon, and discovered the ruins of civilizations on various planets. From the documents in the ruins, we realized that the solar system was not a native galaxy, but an experimental field created to imitate the home of an otherworldly civilization. That was the human race, or rather, the ancient human race. The current Soviet Union, the European Community, China, Atlantis, Lemurians, and the astral civilization at the center of the Milky Way are all child civilizations of that civilization. An unimaginable disaster occurred in the otherworldly universe. In the disaster, the Creator was born from the ancient human civilization. He created the original 4 horsemen, and he left behind the guardians of civilization, Apocalypse. Apocalypse brought the newly sprouted 4 horsemen to this universe. They fought everywhere, destroyed countless civilizations, and at the same time grew into a very terrifying existence. Following the will of the Creator, they built the solar system and used the home planets of the enemies they defeated as the 9 planets around the solar system. Apocalypse and the 4 horsemen left. To conquer the wider universe and parallel universes, they left an insignificant part of themselves here, waiting for the arrival of the Creator. They also monitored the civilization in this huge laboratory as an experimental subject. So the Kree people came, they built a civilization on the moon, trying to get the approval of Apocalypse. The Skrulls came, the Shes came, the Eternals came, and they all left their ruins here. In addition, there was also the Titans who were born in Thanos. Their home planet was destroyed by the war Skynet, and the wreckage became the moon of Jupiter. This is what the Milky Way and the 9 worlds call the Apocalypse. In essence, it was just the four horsemen of apocalypse left behind an operating mechanism to correct the experimental data. When a civilization is determined to be worthless, they will make a move, bringing destruction, destroying or driving those civilizations to other places for periodic tests. Gila found the ruins on Titan where the four horsemen of apocalypse destroyed the Titans. It even included the traces left behind by the entanglement of the Death Knights and the Goddess of Death. As for what happened, I'm afraid only the dead Thanos knows. Gila was bewitched by the power of the Death Knights and the Goddess of Death. She tried to pursue that power that did not belong to her, and even wanted to drag Asgard into the war between those two. Of course, I would not allow her to have such a stupid idea, so I had to make a move to correct her crazy behavior. I imprisoned her in the darkness and reflected on her heart that was tempted by the power of death. But Gila has disappointed me time and time again. Not only did she not wake up, but she became more and more obsessed with that great power. She even called herself the Goddess of Death. Odin said disappointedly. Since then, I began to reflect on myself. Did I lead the Asgardians on a path of destruction? Did too many victories make us lose our way? If we continue to do this, will the mechanism left behind by the apocalypse judge us to be worthless? Will it lead to destruction? So I decided to change the way the Asgardians cook. Instead of conquering and destroying other civilizations, I will become a god and rule the universe in another way. We were lucky. The giants, dwarves, and elves were all obsessed with conquest and expanding their strength. As a result, they attracted the test of the apocalypse. Their civilization was severely damaged because of this, and the Vanir gods, who were once named after us, were even on the verge of destruction. During that period of time, I watched helplessly as the races that were in no way inferior to us, the glorious civilizations that had worked together with us for a period of time to create the ether particles and the ice magic box, fell into decline. At that time, I knew that we would face the end of the world one day. The test of the apocalypse would not be too far away from us. So I paid the price of an eye to pray for a way out for our civilization. But hope is not something that can be begged for. It only exists in pain. My child, I cannot guide you on how to survive this period of disaster. I will grow old, and you will be crowned king. Chapter 9:59. Star-Lord, a priestess whose entire body was gilded and shining with a golden luster, was sitting on the throne with a disgusted look on her face, as if breathing the same air as him was an insult to her. The priestess suppressed her disgust, and disgust in a rather perfunctory manner. She frowned and said loudly, "We hired you because we have a mission for you. Of course, the reward is generous. I don't think Supreme needs me. After all, I'm just a native from Earth." Star-Lord couldn't help but complain. "I'm short-sighted and ignorant. I've never heard that the glass of a border planet was burned by those Russians from Earth, nor have I heard that your fleet was defeated in the battle with the Revolutionary Alliance. Of course, the vacuum implosion bomb that was delivered to your home planet by the Void has nothing to do with me. The sky is clear, the space is quiet, and the life of the people of Supreme Star is quiet and peaceful. I don't think there's anything I can do here." Star-Lord shrugged. "How dare you?" The priestess Aisha immediately became furious, and the priest next to her had to step forward and persuade her. "Please calm down, High Priestess. Those Earthlings didn't mean to offend you. This isn't an intentional offense. They are insulting our Supreme Star," Aisha said. Star-Lord couldn't help but interrupt. "Yes, I am insulting your Supreme Star. If this is an insult, then for you, unless I kneel down, put your feet on my head, and then say, 'I obey God's will.' Otherwise, it is an insult to you. The way you treat the people from other planets is simply trampling on them. You said that this is respecting your racial traditions because you're used to being superior. So now, please respect the racial traditions of an Earthling. That's how we talk there. If you don't agree, you could drive us away." "I'm going to expel you now," Aisha shouted. "Then you lose me, an Earthling, as your envoy, and you go to see those Russians in person. I can already foresee the scene where you meet. Your envoy can hold his head high and go to see Ivanovich of the Third River System Fleet. And then the grumpy general will say, 'What are you looking at?' Then your envoy will arrogantly say, What's wrong with looking at you? In the end, both sides can continue this conflict. Believe me, the Russians never care about a truce. They're always on the battlefield or on the way to the battlefield. Not to mention that they are ready to go to war with the four horsemen of the apocalypse at any time. I think it is very likely that Yuri wants to practice on a few alien races before the official war. I heard that the Republic, another member of the Human Revolutionary Alliance, has already collected the relevant data from the dimensional space monsters in your star field. They have already broken through the blockade around your home planet. The vacuum implosion last time was a warning. You should be thankful that the Republic is the one with the best space technology in the APC. If the Russians had the right to fire, I would have seen a wreckage instead of your planet Sovereign. When I passed by my spaceship just now, I saw that your satellite seemed to have lost nearly half of its body. It seems that the detonation point of the vacuum implosion bomb was very close to you. Why isn't your ultimate planetary defense system working? Oh, Star-Lord pretended to be enlightened and said, "It turns out that the final defense system has been broken by them. Now your supreme star is like being pressed to the ground by the aborigines from our Earth. And you can only scream from time to time to make the blood of the Russians who are pressing you." "Shut up," Aisha screamed. "Don't think that we don't know that the three universal civilizations of the Human Revolutionary Alliance have nothing to do with the aborigines of the Earth. They came from the ancient civilization of the Creator, and you are just a group of monkeys they used to do experiments. Then please be fair when you speak. We are the same group of monkeys," Star-Lord said coldly. "I think when you Supreme Star can observe genes, your face will look very good when you see that symbol. Made by Skynet, you must be investigated. No wonder you are so obsessed with genetic perfection and have developed extremely advanced genetic modulation and modification technology. But don't forget, compared to us, you're just a group of monkeys who have taken off the collar of your master. You even lost the right to go to the solar system because of this. And even if you take off the label in the program left behind by the apocalypse, you're still a group of experimental animals." As soon as these words fell, not only did Aisha almost go crazy with anger, but even the Supreme Star next to her also had a bad expression on his face. He looked at Star-Lord and the others with a murderous look in his eyes. Rocket was also shocked by the piercing, murderous intent shooting at them from all around. He quietly pulled Star-Lord's sleeve and whispered, "You often tell me to clean my mouth, but you are even more annoying than me. Don't forget, we are still in their territory," Star-Lord whispered. "Their attitude is too annoying. Don't worry, they need me now. Don't look at this group of civilians who are still so arrogant. But in fact, they have been beaten by the Soviets and are only a step away from full surrender. As long as the civilians still want to surrender with dignity, they must rely on me. You know, I am the only Earth mercenary outside the entire solar system. If they dare to approach the solar system, not to mention the Asgardians, the 9-star defense system will not let them go. Any race in the universe without a dog tag is not allowed to approach the solar system. The dog tag that Star-Lord mentioned naturally refers to the mark on the human gene. Star-Lord's judgment was not too wrong. Although the Supreme Star's High Priest Aisha was mad with anger, she just turned her head and left and did not do anything irrational. Although the Supreme Star who was replaced by Star-Lord still had a hard tone, he was at least relatively equal. Of course, in the Supreme Star's logic, this is already considered humbling. After exchanging the most critical opinion, the price, Raccoon Rocket was already counting money from ear to ear. He laughed and said, "These golden barbarians are really rich. This money is enough for us to have fun for a while. I want to buy a private planet for fun." Recently, the Soviets have been burning glass crazily in the galaxy, and the price of planets has dropped a lot. They are building an interstellar route. They want to build 4 large wormholes in the Silver Heart, the first, second, and third arms to get rid of their dependence on their allies' space technology. Although their wormholes are stupid and black, at least they have solved the problem of hyperspace movement. Soon, the Russian fleet will be able to achieve a day, time zone in the entire galaxy. No wonder they are in conflict with so many alien civilizations. Raccoon said happily, "It has brought us a lot of business. Hurrah! Long live the Soviets." land requisition, and forced demolition. Star-Lord laughed and said, "The gap between different races in the universe is too heavy. Originally, they had compensation measures, but the time that the IRGC has been in the galaxy is too short, and there are few diplomatic relations with other civilizations, so it is a bit difficult to communicate. Those Russians work hard. No wonder there are conflicts everywhere." Drax whispered, "Star-Lord, your home planet is really developed. Since Luo Nan, that damn guy, entered your planet by mistake and disappeared, now everyone knows that Terrastar is the legendary graveyard of civilization, the origin of the apocalypse, the galactic forbidden zone, Earth. I wanted to kill Luo Nan with my own hands, but unfortunately, Kamala, Thanos has been looking for Earth. In the long history of the galaxy, he has been stuck in that galaxy, and he is afraid of something in it. But I know that he will eventually do it. Star-Lord, your home planet will not have a few days of peace." "We all know," Star-Lord shrugged indifferently and said, "it has never been peaceful." At this time, the Supreme Star who had just discussed the price with him came back with an ugly expression on his face. He said to Star-Lord, "Someone contacted us. He wants to talk to you." "Who is he?" Star-Lord asked doubtfully. "Igo, a person who is very famous among some people. He is an interstellar explorer, and he is very old. He has a friendship with many elders of the universe." "Why did he come to me?" Star-Lord was puzzled. "I don't seem to know him." He said. The Supreme Star showed a happy look on his face. "He is your father?" "He is my father." Star-Lord spread out his hands and said, "Is this a joke?" The Supreme Star did not answer, but continued to explain, "Your father has a private planet that is on the orbit of the interstellar route that the Soviets want to build. We met at the Alliance against the Soviets' violent demolition. He has been very upset that the Soviets want to demolish his planet. The Soviets gave him a 3-month deadline, and when it expires, they will vaporize his small planet with a gamma-ray burst. Your father has always wanted to fight for the treatment of planet relocation, but the Soviets claim that his planet size does not meet the regulations and it belongs to an asteroid. Unless he has proof of an interstellar protected animal breeding area or a primitive civilization reserve, there is no relocation treatment. He is now in a fierce fight with the Soviet fleet, and he is the leader of our violent resistance against the Soviets' violent demolition alliance. I guess he came to you this time because the Soviets used gamma-ray bursts and neutrino wave weapons to destroy 6 galaxies some time ago, and by the way, they destroyed a certain civilization of the Resistance Party. He wants to reach a dialogue with the Revolutionary Alliance through you." That Supreme Star said in a gloating tone. "My mother said he was a Spartoy." Star-Lord was surprised. "I thought I would be an alien prince or something. An interstellar mercenary with a private planet?" Rocket said angrily. "You can also call yourself an alien prince." "That's just an asteroid," Star-Lord shouted. "You can also buy one." "Oh my God, didn't you notice? That's an asteroid that is about to be demolished," Rocket exaggeratedly said. "When the compensation for the demolition arrives, you will be a real alien prince. I have seen the compensation standard, and you can buy a real planet. If it is an asteroid with life, maybe I can compensate you with a life planet without intelligent life. Get rich from demolition. Brother, let's talk about this later. We haven't figured out the situation yet." Star-Lord signaled. Chapter 960. There is only darkness before my eyes. Odin's voice was low. He sat on the throne, his head bowed in the shadows, staring at the ruins of Asgard where the embers were slowly burning. He was facing a hideous and terrible black wolf. The wolf's mane fluttered in the wind, and its pupils glowed with a ghostly blue luster. Divine blood flowed down Odin's right hand, onto the lance of eternity, and dripped from the tip of the lance onto the throne. Where is hope? Where will it end? Odin looked back at his beloved Asgard. The shadow of the black dragon covered the 9 worlds. Thor and Loki led the Asgardians to fight desperately in the ruins. Twisted, hideous insects pounced on them from all directions. The black dragon was clad in iron armor. Lava dripped from the gaps in the armor, igniting all of Asgard. The continent burned in the midst of death. Blood-red magma flowed everywhere. Wherever the shadow of the black dragon spread, countless indescribable existences reached out from the darkness and dragged the Asgardians into the darkness. Odin was too weak to lift the lance of eternity. He laughed bitterly. The demon wolf suddenly pounced on him and bit his throat. Gungnir slipped out of his hand powerlessly. Thor, who was in the distance, wailed in grief when he saw this scene. He ignored the countless hideous monsters rushing at him and rushed towards his father. Loki had no choice but to use all his strength to block the attacks coming from all directions for him. Thor picked up Gungnir and threw a fatal blow at the black demon wolf. On the Lance of Eternity, Odin's blood flowed through a series of runes, activating the runes. The runes glowed with a ghostly blue luster. The runes, Gungnir's power, locked onto the only solution to the collapse of the cloud of probabilities in the future. In an impossible way, it passed through the barrier of time and space, bypassed the chaos algorithm represented by the demon wolf itself, and pierced through the countless possibilities of the demon wolf in the timeline at the same time. Gungnir pierced through the heart of the monster. At this time, Asgard's dusk cast its last ray of light on Odin. The blind old man had long since lost his breath on the throne. Thor roared at the shadow of the demonic dragon in the sky. Ancient snake, Asgard may be destroyed, but it will never bow. The gods may usher in their dusk, but you are also destined to be buried with us. The demonic dragon smiled. Is that so? You think too highly of yourselves. Don't add to the drama. At this time, the earth of Asgard began to undulate, and the whole continent trembled violently. All matter seemed to have the breath of life. The earth and the shadow of the demonic dragon merged together, turning into a giant python that encompassed all the matter of Asgard. Thor held the Lance of Eternity and threw it at the demonic dragon. The entire palace of Asgard had turned into the head of the serpent, and it opened its deep mouth to swallow Thor. Loki's eyes was filled with rage, but he was overwhelmed by countless insects that surged like a tide. He could only watch helplessly as the demonic dragon's figure twisted into a man and grabbed the spear. Thor held the Stormhammer in one hand and grasped at the man's figure with the other. He wanted to hammer the head of the python that swallowed him, but the hammer head, which was comparable to a neutron star, merged into the python's body. Thor was stunned, and with a regretful and angry roar, he was swallowed into the mouth of the dust python and fell into the endless abyss. Loki shouted at the place where Thor had fallen. Thor! Loki shouted at the place where Thor fell. Thor! But he had no strength to lift his sword. More and more monsters came from all directions. In the end, he was pushed down on the scales of the earthly serpent. The last thing he saw was the king of the flame giants, Surt, kneeling in front of the black dragon. The kingdom of elves and dwarves was also swallowed by the earthly serpent. The 9 worlds fell into endless darkness at the same time. The black dragon flapped its wings and rose. Outside the solar system, Pluto was the first to collapse, followed by Neptune, Uranus, Saturn, and Jupiter. Outside the solar system, a fleet made of crystal and steel with a mysterious geometric shape was fighting against a twisted sea of insects. The void energy and psionic energy arrays were confined to the thermal area radiators of the warships, forming the core of the prism. The professor sat in the command cabin of the fleet's flagship. His powerful psionic ability connected the psionic fields of all the astrals together. The void radiator, controlled by the Archon of Light and the Archon of Darkness, first unfolded the radiators. The mechanical arms slowly opened like petals, and a complex array of energy beams and phase crystals guided the prism core to gather the energy into a destructive beam that shone on the sea of insects in front of them. The other 2 focusing arrays also entered a state of alignment, and finally, the 3 separated beams gathered together. A few seconds later, the energy intensity of the radiation multiplied exponentially, and thousands of dazzling beams intertwined into a sea of light energy. Where they focused, everything turned into ashes. The dense sea of insects evaporated in large swathes in the intertwining beams. However, those Zergs did not die. Instead, they transformed into another form that was even more twisted and crazy, more deviating from life. The quantum waves of the countless dead Zergs continued to expand, entangling with each other, forming even more complicated quantum movements and entangled state phenomena. The professor's body began to turn blue. He levitated from the wheelchair, and his eyes were a deep blue. He stared at the entangled quantum cycle of countless insects in front of him, forming a dark, chaotic, huge, amorphous mass. In the dark void of the universe, it was as if an invisible giant drum was being beaten, and a flute that only produced a nauseating, monotonous tone was being played. The boring, monotonous, and ear-piercing sound blended into the background sounds of the universe. In the battlefield of the universe, the astrals were still fighting against the ever-evolving and various insectoid biological warships. But in the deeper background of the universe, the professor and his Athos were entangled in a higher dimension, a twisted and extremely crazy quantum cycle formed by countless crazy and impoverished insectoid thoughts. Azathos was able to make many astral warships fall into madness with a muttering that he constantly radiated. Biochemical substances rapidly proliferated from the bodies of the astrals, covering the elegant warships made of crystal and metal, turning them into the twisted, flesh-colored biological warships of the insectoids. On the high-dimensional battlefield, the two launched a data entanglement and information attack calculated using Planck time. Outside the Earth, there were countless complex spatial structures that distorted the space about the size of a Milky Way galaxy to form a huge spatial bubble system that enveloped the Earth 1,000 kilometers away from the ground. The matter of about 100,000 galaxies was extracted from the distant Milky Way galaxy and injected into the spatial bubble defense system. At every moment, there were energy reflections on the scale of a Milky Way galaxy. Millions of dimensional warriors of the Republic patrolled this strange, artificial cosmic spatial structure and defense system. Yangqi looked at the planets that were beginning to deform not far away from the solar system. At the bottom of the low-dimensional space observed by the Republic, where the dark matter and dark space were, there was a completely distorted spatial structure. Countless distorted spatial bubbles in a form that the Republic could not understand formed a strange existence. In that space, matter still existed in the form of matter for a second, and in the next second, it was distorted into a completely indescribable state. Those distorted monsters are data calculated by the Apocalypse using the chaos algorithm. In terms of information, it is special from the general cosmic information background. This may be another kind of mathematical information that the Apocalypse observed when it traveled and studied in certain universes. This kind of mathematical information is completely different from the mathematical system that we are exposed to. Its biggest characteristic is that it has no characteristics or laws. Mathematics is made up of characteristics and laws, so information science is also made up of laws. Discovering and summarizing laws is the foundation of the existence of science. According to the grand unification theory, the reason why the universe appears like this is the effect of the laws and order of information. It is impossible for them to have no laws. This completely chaotic and distorted information state can be called chaos. There must be a core law and science hidden in it. However, this law completely violates our current scientific system. It may only be meaningful in a higher dimension. This chaotic system that we are temporarily unable to understand is called the chaos algorithm. What we are facing is the space application of the chaos algorithm known as Yog-Sothoth. It is infecting the space bubble defense system that we have constructed. Currently, almost half of the space bubble in the Milky Way has been infected. If we are unable to crack the chaos algorithm within 3 days, then the space defense system will be completely ineffective. All the weapon systems that we have constructed, the space system, and the space that we live in will become a part of Yog-Sothoth. By then, even without the Apocalypse's intervention, our civilization will already be destroyed. On Earth, countless twisted tentacles covered in mucus were being bombarded by the Soviets. A fog of chaos shrouded Earth. Humans were slowly disappearing in the middle, and the existence of information was decreasing. Adolf waved his hands. The 40 million comrades of the Nazis will die together. The nameless fog, an existence that we know nothing about. Stark said in a low voice, "On Earth, information and data about humans are disappearing on a large scale. I don't know how many people have perished on the information level, nor do I know how much information about their family, colleagues, and friends people have forgotten. Right now, I still remember the names of 9 people and the relevant information of about 50 people. I am trying my best to preserve this information. Otherwise, Mr. President, we will forget all of the people of America, and we will be forgotten. In the end, this civilization will cease to exist. In every sense, it will cease to exist. Our future depends on the past, and the past depends on information. If we forget each other, if everything about us disappears on the information level, then, Mr. President, our past will cease to exist. Not to mention the future, right? Mr. President, what is your name again?" Stark was puzzled. "Bush. Yin and in yin. Okay, President Kennedy. I got it. Asterisk and %yin hashtag. President Washington, you don't have to keep mentioning it. I understand what you mean. Wait, who was on the phone with?" Stark turned around and shouted, "Friday, get the records and tell me who I'm talking to." I can't hear his response anymore. "Hello? Hello?" There is no signal,